If what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, then Danny Derrig could move mountains. Faced with the surreal adversity of an initial cancer diagnosis in August of 2015, Danny fought on to eventually defeat it, before relapsing back into its terrifying clutches 2 additional times since. Now at 38, and with a string of permanent damage to the body that years of treatment has brought forth, he shares his eye-opening story for the first time, with all of the courage, tenacity, and tribulations of a man who never gave up.
I had just found out I was going to have a son. I knew she was pregnant before, for like a couple months before that. So I just found out I was having a son. Then the next week is when I found out I had cancer. So she pulls me back, and she pulls me. And I knew it was bad because she grabbed a box of Kleenexes and sat next to me and handed me the phone. And I'm like, you're not handing me Kleenexes for nothing.
Good evening, everyone. The highlights of the news. Traffic accident. A Beaver County man is being held for murder. Is more later.
What's going on, y'all? You're tuning in to the highest rated, most listened to podcast to ever grace the airwaves, and you're a better person for listening to us. All right, maybe not, but you're really going to enjoy it anyways. This is Made to Motivate podcast, and we'll be talking social media hot topics, pop culture news, the greatest in movies and music, and all things sports. Make sure you're following us on social media at Made to Motivate podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can watch the show on our YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and with that being said, let's get this show started. What is going on, y'all? It is Made to Motivate podcast. This is season 8, episode 11. And I'm your host, Ryan Weiss, as always. And we are joined by Christopher, the Film Freak Kessinger.
I'm here.
You are here.
Where's someone else on this panel?
Well, Jesse's never here. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we don't talk about that anymore.
Chris showed up. It's consistent. We like it. And then the other guy that I normally have here, he looks a little different today because Dan decided to bail on us last minute. But we do have a fantastic special guest in studio. I think this is guest 2 of this season.
Yes.
Yeah, guest 2. So we are joined by Danny Derrig. Is that right?
Yeah, Danny Derrig.
Danny Derrig has joined us for today's show. So we're actually kind of changed things up for you guys. So as you know, we've had guests on many a times, but normally we either do like a 2-part episode, or we've got like a 4-hour episode because we do our normal spiel and then our guest segment. But this is going to be our first kickoff of a completely 100% guest dedicated show. So we're not going to do locker room or let's get social or anything. We'll pick up next week on that. And this one will be just Made to Motivate. So we can do a quick weekly rewind. And then we're going to kick it right off with our guest and go from there. So anything new and exciting with you since last week, Chris?
As usual, my weekends, there's not much going on, but I did get to catch my first baseball game of the year. Went to the Guardians and Mariners on Saturday. Man, going into that, I brought my jacket, I had my jersey on, and I had a t-shirt on underneath it. So I'm like, I'll probably be all right. I mean, it's 55 degrees outside. I'm outside and colder than this at work. Ooh, that brush off the lake, man. It is for real. Yeah. So I reached for my jacket in the second inning. And then after that, it was pretty much me with my hands in my pocket and shivering most of the night. I was like, can I tough this out for the whole game? And I did, but
not for me. I hate the cold.
April's tense, man, for baseball games. I probably should have waited till later, but this is the only time the Mariners are in town. So
yeah. Did you is this your first time going to a Guardians game? Have you been since they switched over?
No, I went to one last year. This would be my second. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I went to one Mariner game last year.
Cool.
Yep.
So movies, you see anything new and exciting? What was on your list?
Last night I saw an interesting Little Richard documentary, which was pretty cool. It was interesting to learn about him. It's called I Am Everything.
Okay.
And that title is basically a play on his some would call it his ego, but certainly his confidence when it came to being on stage. Like he really was everything and everyone.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was good. We talked about Super Mario Brothers last week. Air was kick-ass, man. I didn't get to talk about Air last week. Ben Affleck's new movie revolving around Michael Jordan and the signing of him to the Nike shoe contract.
Yeah.
Very
cool. I do want to check that out. That is on my list.
That's loud.
Is that loud?
Yeah, sorry.
Good? Better?
Yeah, better.
We are I think that's one I got to get to the theater and see. I saw John Wick. I saw Scream. Next up is I think probably Up. I need to check that out.
You gonna put Up before Super Mario?
Probably not.
Okay, I was gonna say
probably not. I do want to see Super Mario. I went to go last weekend, but it was just too packed. I don't like to do it if it's like really full. So
okay.
Nice.
What about you?
What did I do? I think I saw Scream. I think that's probably about the most exciting thing since last week. Not much.
Yeah.
Saw Scream 6. That was pretty good. I think give it like a 7 maybe.
That was I was at 7 too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was decent. We talked about it offline. Like, I mean, it was one of the betters in the series, but definitely not my favorite.
I agree.
So cool. But outside of that, nothing too exciting.
Yeah.
So we're gonna kick it off with Made to Motivate. We'll flop over to that segment and then we'll introduce our guest and we will go from there.
Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it!
All right, guys. So Made to Motivate. Like I said, we got a guest, Danny Derrig. Chris, you want to do an intro? I mean, Chris invited the guest on. I usually like to have the invitees kind of do an introduction. So
yeah,
if you want to go ahead and introduce Danny or how you know him, how we got here.
So I've personally known Danny since my junior year of high school, his sophomore year, and we have a mutual acquaintance between us. It's his cousin Chad, my friend Chad. That's how we met. We actually met at his house here in Ellet. And yeah, dude, like right from the get-go, I knew the man was full of charisma, loves sports, loves boy bands and pop music even more. There is a question I'm going to get to later on that we definitely have to conquer, but that's in due time. Yeah, Danny's a good dude, man, and the reason why I wanted him on this show is not only just his story, it's remarkable, and to hear about, you know, the battles that he's overcome, but on top of it all, he's really just a fascinating person underneath it all. He's got a great heart. He's very genuine. And I feel like he's something that this show would only gain from in having in studio.
Heck yeah. I mean, that's quite an introduction.
Yeah.
I wish I knew the boy band thing because I had a Backstreet Boy shirt on before you got here.
We're going to get there.
Yeah,
I still have my shirts from like 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago now.
Heck yeah.
In fact, my mom, when I was over there for Easter this weekend, she like gave me some stuff from my room and it was Backstreet Boys stuff.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So I still know you're hardcore when it comes to that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's not fake.
Wasn't a phase. Good stuff. So yeah, what we'll do is if you want to do kind of like an introduction of yourself, Danny, tell us a little bit about yourself pre, you know, your diagnosis and all that we're going to get to, but you know, name, age, little about yourself, what you like to do in your free time, your favorite boy band maybe.
Okay. Well, I'm Danny Derrig.
Yeah.
I grew up here in Akron and Ellet, really close to this area. Like I said, like Chris said, I've known him like, God, it's been over 20 years now.
Yeah, just about.
First memories probably would be him eating his hair in high school.
What hair?
He had hair, definitely. He like cut his hair and ate it. They put on like a wrestling show, him and Chad.
Yeah.
And it was actually pretty cool. And Chad was like strutting out. And
Surfer Dudes versus Mysteriously Insane.
Yeah, I don't remember the details.
Yeah.
But I think our generation was all really into like WWF.
Yeah.
It may have been like the first year of WWE, but it was around that time.
Good call. Yeah.
We were, you know, everybody. I mean, I would much rather watch a 90s wrestling than like now. I mean, not that I'd be a hater, and I'm sure that there's like 8-year-olds now who like, you know, think Hogan's an old fart.
Yeah.
But so that was like right in that era. It was really cool. You know, I went to high school with your wife, went to middle school. We were in the same grade. Our 20-year reunion is going to be
wild
next year. I mean, I don't know what you guys are doing.
So we've got one going on right now. They booked it at, I don't know where, I want to say Guys or something like that, but they booked it and like they're charging everybody through like PayPal. It's I don't want to say the fee, but
they're not doing it at the Dirty.
They're not doing it at the Dirty. No, which surprises me because that's Ellet chic right there.
Yeah, I know. Speak of the Dirty, I grew up going to there on teen night.
Yeah.
Like when it was like you had to be 13. I remember going at like 12 on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
Being like, lying. Like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
13. But I was 12.
Did you have a fake ID? No.
And Billy L. Frank, who was in my grade, it was his step family,
Mhm.
and Mike Cook, who was in my brother's grade, who they were like best friends. It was his biological dad, grandpa, uncle who owned the Dirty, and so I grew up going there to the Dirty. And I was really, really good friends with in fact, to speak of Chris and I were talking the last time I saw him, we were watching a fight. My best memory of Mike Cook is I watched Mike Tyson bite Evander Holyfield's ear at Mike Cook's house.
Was it 96 or 7?
97.
Yeah.
And then I remember me and my brother at like 1 a.m.
Mhm.
I would never let my kids do this. 1 a.m. walked home from his house to my house, which is a mile or something.
Mm.
And I don't know what that was, January or something.
Oh God.
Because I think it was during Christmas break.
Wow.
We'd have to look up the date, but
Yeah.
I was probably 12 years old.
Mhm.
And I don't know that I would let my 12-year-old walk at
Heck no.
1 a.m.
1 a.m.
now.
Anywhere.
And I could barely leave the yard unless we go to the park and I'm there. So I don't know.
Good
So
stuff.
I don't know more about my background, just born and raised in Akron. Currently, I live in Hartville, but like way out. It's not like where a lot of people think of Hartville. It's
not around like Hartville Kitchen and that.
No,
area.
I knew you was gonna say that.
Yeah.
My kids go to Plain Township schools.
Yeah.
Because it's closer for me in the morning, which I take them to get to Plain Township than it is to get to Lake. So I live like in one of the last houses before it's like Glen Oak.
How many kids and what are their ages?
I have 2 kids. My son, his name is Enzo.
Nice.
He's 7,
Mhm.
7 and 3 months. And then I have a daughter, Esme. She's 5 and a half.
That's a
She's had her
beautiful
half birthday. And
Cool names.
we celebrate that. So
Heck yeah.
yeah, she's named after J.D. Salinger's short story for Esme with Love and Squalor.
Okay.
So my wife picked it. So
I like it.
and I
J.D.
picked
Salinger's
Enzo.
I love Catcher in the Rye, one of my
Yeah.
favorite books.
Yeah.
And in
Big
fact,
fan of him.
in the 50s, this was more popular.
Yeah. Okay.
Then Catcher in the Rye got put into high school curriculum in the U.S., and that is what he's known
Took
for now.
off,
But
yeah.
if it was 1955, he'd be more known for that.
Very cool. What about what do you do outside of like work and stuff? What's hobbies? What are things that you do?
So I do a lot of like wrestling and judo and like
Cool.
2011, I first started judo. And so when I was like watching those Anderson's fight, I was doing like karate and stuff, which is just like I hate.
Yeah.
But this is basically all you can find around here. I was doing like karate and
Mhm.
jujitsu and stuff then, but like not very passionately. But when I moved to Illinois and I found a really good coach, judo, and only judo, and then I became extremely passionate about that. So for the last 10 years, I've been very, I still go to judo practice. I went last night. I'll go tomorrow. I'll go to regular freestyle wrestling on Saturday.
Mhm.
So I do a lot of that. I do a lot of reading.
Yeah.
Less sports than I used to because of my kids. To spend a ton of time playing with my kids, not as much as I'd like, but we do a lot of stuff like outdoors. We have a basketball hoop.
Yeah.
We have a horse, so we do horse stuff. Like the horse lives at our house. It's not like boarded
That's
somewhere.
cool.
So
Lots of land.
I feed. Yeah, I have a pond, a barn, a
Wow.
horse, fenced in
That's cool.
yard. So yeah, I do try and do a lot of stuff. Read, study.
Very cool. Have you ever done, not to have a shameless plug, I mean, I'm not even affiliated with them, but have you heard of Cage Thunder?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
of course. There's guys from my gym who find.
I was wondering, yeah, based on the fact that you're like really into that.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Your friend.
Norm?
Yeah, lost to Kyle.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah.
Says it's Aries. He's not Aries. He's at Ground Zero.
Oh.
But like
Kyle?
Kyle Crone.
Yeah,
So
okay, yeah. I wasn't sure if you're talking about him or Norm.
I don't know him. I go
Yeah.
there. That's why I do wrestling on Saturdays.
Yeah.
Okay.
I go to Ground Zero.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I've never met him because I think he's more of a kickboxer, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I
Yeah.
could be totally wrong, but he has never come on a Saturday that I've
Yeah.
gone.
Okay.
And I've gone on Wednesday a couple times, which is another wrestling day.
Yeah.
But if you go to his like Tapology or whatever, it says
Yeah.
Aries. I've never once seen him at Aries,
Really?
and I've been going there for a couple years. So what I think is like Dave Graff, the owner, is like the person who can like put the name down and sign as the coach.
Okay.
But his real coach is like a guy named Dustin who owns Ground Zero. Well, he and another other guy.
Yeah.
But so Aries is where like I've been training for a couple years, but
Nice.
I currently like pay for 3 gyms. So I go to Aries, I go to a judo studio only in Warrensville Heights. Aries is in Macedonia.
Yeah.
And I go to Ground Zero in Massillon.
Cool.
So
That's real cool.
Do you have a certification when it comes to judo? So like, you know, in karate, they'll say black belt.
no. So like one thing is I've moved a lot. So like especially in judo, one person I went to was Park Judo. He doesn't advertise. It's in Akron, Copley Road.
Oh, I know that place. Yeah. I used to live in Copley.
Okay. He's like 85.
Yeah. Yeah.
He does not belt people.
Yeah.
So when if you go there, you could be there 10 years.
Yeah.
Then if you leave and you say, hey, I've been doing judo 10 years. Okay, well, come to are you coming to my gym now? Well, what belt did white belt? So that Master Park is old school. He goes white to black and nothing in between.
Okay.
So I don't want to say I wasted time there, but in terms of like rankings,
The credential type stuff.
yeah, in terms of credentials, I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving from Illinois hurt me. At Aries, they don't do enough judo, in my opinion. They don't train enough gi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't get a belt in a non-gi judo.
Yeah.
So we do have judo. So my main judo coach at that school, since COVID, since 2021, has been out probably 85% of the days. Because he got COVID, was like hospitalized for months, got better, got sick, got better, and I mean really sick each time.
That's tough with a physical sport like that.
Oh yeah, I mean he can't. I don't know that he would have lived if he wasn't in very good shape for being like 55. And it's 2 years later, and obviously, you know, he just I feel bad. He is not coming right now. He's sick again. And when I say sick, like he gets hospitalized for like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a time. His heart is really damaged. His lungs are really damaged. And so that's my main judo coach at Aries. He's out a lot. And Richard, the other black belt, can't give a showdown, which is a black belt. So, and then I started going to Warrensville Heights too, because they do pure judo. It's really good. It's like Olympic style. I don't know. He said that we would talk last night about making me showdown, which is a black belt. But then last night he didn't come, and he called me and he was like, hey, my brother needs help. I can't come to practice. Will you run practice tonight? And I was like, okay.
I'll do it for a black belt.
No.
Right. Yeah.
So like, the thing is like, I don't really care that much. I really don't. Like, they don't do it in wrestling. So I did a Sambo tournament in in March. So like a month ago.
Nice.
I loved that. It was like the happiest I've ever been in terms of wrestling. And here's why. Judo is snobby as hell. You show up to a judo match, they're like, who's your coach? Where's this? Where's that? What's this? Yeah, no, we're gonna put you a novice today. I'm like, well, I've been doing judo over 10 years. Oh, you don't have a coach here to verify anything. Just a bunch of baby dicks, honestly. And there's a reason why we don't win any gold except for Kayla Harrison. The men have never. The Sambo didn't ask me one question. You want to get on that mat? You could go against somebody with 25 years experience.
Wow.
Somebody with 1 month. Just go on the mat and wrestle. And they're just like, where do you work at? Whoa, that's awesome. We don't have them on our list. Well, let's make your school Sambo school.
It's
like,
the excitement to get you included.
They were so excited.
Yeah.
They were like, because a lot of these small like martial arts, like a Sambo in America, it's like there's a small community. So they were like, well, who are you? I've never seen you before. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I wrestled. I've been doing judo for 10 years. And they're like, well, we're happy to have you here. I mean, like the head guy is like introducing himself. I'm telling you, you go to a judo tournament, they act like you shouldn't be there. It's pathetic. That's my experience with judo. And it's sad because I think it's my favorite grappling sport. Sambo was awesome. I thought that was the best tournament I've ever done. I'm going to do one in May in New Jersey. This weekend was nationals. I didn't go. I kind of wish I would have gone, but I wouldn't. Well, let me say this. Once I made my weight in March, I like ate whatever I want for like basically a month.
Yeah.
And I would not have made weight this weekend in my weight category. So I just didn't compete, but my friend did, and he won nationals. He'll be going to Kyrgyzstan.
Oh, wow.
and he won in 21 and went to Uzbekistan for Worlds. You get to meet like a lot of famous people when you do stuff like that. So yeah, Sambo I think is great, and I'm going to do another tournament. So I guess I'm really going off the deep end and things I do in pastime. But
and this journey for you, when it comes to like physical contact sports, like this started for you in high school, correct? Like you wrestled for the wrestling team in high school.
I quit, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I wrestled in middle school.
Okay. And then also you met your wife now, right?
In high school.
In high school.
But we didn't date until college, really.
Really?
Yeah. So in May of 2003, I met her. I went up to her at the Elliott lunchroom. Actually, so I saw her at the pep rally. She was like freshman, but city champ. I didn't know who she was in track. So I was like, damn, that girl's got a nice butt. I'm gonna
Danny,
like,
I was gonna say we've had some talks. Okay.
I
I know she's gonna be listening to this.
I don't even know her name.
Don't play the cool card.
I didn't even know her name. So like I tried to find out her name. Either way, I found out what lunch period she was in a couple weeks later. So I went up to her. She was sitting with Nathan Klein's sister, who I kind of knew. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like talk to her and then like slide my way over. And then like she was like Andrea Klein. She looked at me and she, you know, I had my food here for lunch. She looked at me and she was like, 10 to your pretzel. Basically turn around and F off. So like we didn't date, but I did go out with her. I did ask her out, and we on your prom night, which I don't know if you went or didn't go.
Oh, I did go. Yeah.
Okay, on your prom night, I hung out with her.
Okay.
And basically didn't see her again until when I was a freshman in 05 at Akron U in the spring semester. We had a class together, geology, and I was like, come sit with me. And she was like, no. And I was like, come on, sit with me. So she did sit with me, and then the next class she did not. And I was like, what are you doing? Come over. So she did sit with me, and then we started dating in 05. And if you remember, we were like, me and you were hanging out at Chad's house. That's when I was like the summer of me first dating her in 05. So that's been 18 years. And then we got married in 2012. So we dated a long time before we got married.
Same story as me.
Yeah.
Me and Ashley met in 05, married in 12.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I heard some talks with this guy. This guy was crazy about you from an early age. Trust me.
That's
Yes.
so fun.
Yeah.
And to your
I'm
pretzel
still
is
crazy
my
about her.
favorite thing ever.
That's gonna be a line I'm gonna hear now from every woman I hit on.
Fantastic.
And she was like pointing. She was like, 10 to your pretzel.
That is
And
fun.
Ryan Irwin was with me.
Oh,
and
Ryan.
he was like, I would never talk to her again if I were you.
Right.
He's like, I've never been told to F off like that. And I was like,
So funny.
I guess I just am stupid and like didn't understand that she was really actually being mean to me.
Mhm.
Did you ever call her on it? Like, did you ever ask her about it? Like, what was your deal?
Yeah, I talk about it all the time.
Yeah. Like, what the fuck?
Brought it up. Like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Fucking
mean-
serves pretzels on their anniversary.
I love
We have
that.
a
Fantastic.
like a bulb that goes on a Christmas tree.
It's a
That's
pretzel.
Mhm.
Fucking
Oh,
love it.
oh,
dude. I
And we
love
put it
it.
up every year.
Oh, that is some cold shit.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we just dated a long time and then we got married eventually. And
Yeah.
then, you know, we had kids and
The rest is history.
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's
and
so
she's-
funny.
to talk about her just one moment.
Yeah.
She's not from Elliott, but she did go to Elliott like Chris and I and Ashley. She's from Randolph, so she grew up like with a horse and a goat and all that stuff. And she's a psychologist now, so
Wow.
she works at the Cleveland Clinic.
Very cool. Track star, right?
And she still runs.
Wow.
We did a 5K on Thanksgiving this year, and she beat me.
Wow.
I knew she'd probably beat me, but I
Mhm.
wanted to beat her. I gave it everything I had. She still beat me.
No, that's what I was saying. 5K is impressive, man.
Yeah. Well, dude, she ran it fast. She runs a lot. She ran today. She runs like almost every day now. So she's really fast still. She does 5Ks. She was city champ 800 meter
Yeah.
Wow.
multiple time. I think the 400 meter too, but maybe like once.
Mhm.
But definitely the 800 meter multiple times for the city of Akron.
No kidding.
Cool stuff. Good to hear backstory. I like hearing that kind of stuff. It's cool.
Yeah.
You want to kick us off, Chris?
Yeah. Basically, so you know, we're here. We wanted to talk about the big conflict in your life for sure. The never stop nagging road, I guess you could say, of the big C. First of all, my first question is, what was your first reaction when you heard of your diagnosis? What was your diagnosis?
Okay, so I I had already prepared myself that I had cancer.
Mhm.
So this is how it happened. Okay. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing in a little bit of a ways. But like I was, fooling around with my wife or whatever. And I had testicular cancer, had, and she felt it. And I was like, God, dude, F that, not true. And then I was like, yeah, you're right. And my testicle, so like shame on me because I did not check. Okay. And like never checked. And I'm sure I don't know about you guys, but
Yeah.
I didn't even know anybody who was checking.
Right.
I've done it since Tom Green.
Okay.
Like,
Tom Green. I remember about Tom Green. And Tom Green and I both had a similar surgeries. And I can show you my scar. Tom Green had his on TV.
Yeah. I remember that.
His surgery, which was massive. They only showed a little bit of it. It was like a 12 to 14-hour surgery. And they showed, condensed it to 3 minutes. Okay. So my testicle felt like a grape,
Wow.
like the whole thing. And then it felt like, so not like a normal testicle. And then it felt like M&Ms were on top of it. Like actually, like it felt like an M&M. And I was like, dude, that's so weird. So that was a Saturday.
Yeah.
And I was flying for work to Minneapolis later that day. And I'm like, I got to put this on the shelf. Coach Yost used to say, put your pain on the shelf. So I'm like, I'm going to put this on the shelf for this week because I got a week in Minneapolis. If I still have this, I will go to the doctor. So really, my wife found it. It was the one who alerted me. When I came back from Minneapolis the next Saturday, I kind of forgot. My wife was like, do you still have the bump? And I'm like, oh, let me check. Yes. And I'm like, okay, so this is a Saturday night. It's 2015, August. The Fantastic Four came out. And I'm like, I need to take my mind off this.
Fan Four stick.
And that was almost worse than getting cancer. That movie sucked.
Oh my
I
That
agree.
was like the worst movie. And I like Michael B. Jordan. I'm like, oh, this is going to be so
He's
good.
my male crush.
And Rooney Mara's sister, Kate Mara. I was like, this is gonna be good. No, it sucked. That was like as bad as getting cancer, maybe.
Yep.
What a disappointment. So that was a Saturday night, and I started Googling, and I'm like, oh shit, I have cancer. Like for real.
Yeah.
My mom's like laughing at me. No, you don't. No, you don't. It says online that most likely it's cyst, etc. So like Monday came, I promised her I would go to the doctor. I didn't go. I went to the doctor. I showed up. I sat in the parking lot for like 20 minutes and I'm like, I'm not going in. This is bullshit. So then I left and went to work.
So you were denying it.
I was denying it.
Mm.
So then the next day she made me go.
Mhm.
And she was like, you have to go. When I get home today, you need to tell me that you went. So I went to my doctor and I did go in this time. And my doctor was like this nervous Nelly. He was like a nerd, like an actual dork who was like probably only like 32, 33. And was like nervous, would be like giving things to you, be like, well, I think you should do, he wasn't like ever confident in his like medical advice because I think he was early practice. So like I see him, he's nervous as hell to like see my dick and my balls.
That's gotta be uneasy. I mean, you're dealing with somebody who's not a qualified professional,
Right.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
worse as it is.
but he did it and he was like, yep, you definitely have a bump. The good thing about his nervousness, and my wife didn't like this about him, he would always like schedule, like, I'd be like, I got a cough. Oh, you need a scan. I got, my elbow hurts. Let's get an MRI. He was like upset. Like, I think he was just so scared.
Precautious.
Of missing something.
Yeah.
So he was like, it's probably nothing, but I'm going to schedule you right now an emergency. What's it called where they look at babies on your stomach?
Ultrasound.
Yeah.
Ultrasound. And I'm like, okay. So then I go to Green. This is where he's like, I can get you into Green today. I was in Hudson, so Hudson to Green. You have to be like on standby though for emergency ultrasound. STAT is what they call it, Sure, we've all heard that. So then, how there's like a Panera in Green?
Yeah.
I like stayed at the Panera in Green basically from like 9 a.m. till about like 5 or something. They like called me and was like, you can come in right now. So basically it was closed.
Mhm.
So I know I'm really answering along.
No, this is great.
So like, I get there, I do it. It's like 5:35. The lights are off. Like, just like if you were closing up shop to turn the lights off at your job. Well, almost all of the lights are off because this isn't the emergency room. This is like the offices.
Yeah.
And, it's just me and this other woman who's my age. who has a husband my age, and he worked for the Cleveland, not what's the Cleveland Cavs Canton team, Canton Charge.
Charge, yeah.
We talked about the Canton Charge when she was doing it. So he worked for the Canton Charge. I thought that was pretty cool. And she immediately sees it and she's like scanning my nuts. And she's just it was a very warm, weird sensation. Just like this, like,
Yeah.
you know, so a woman my age, like, scanning my nuts. It's a weird thing, in my opinion.
I had it done and it was real awkward.
Really?
Yeah,
It was
it's just
super
awkward. I mean, like,
it's real warm because they put like a jelly on there.
yeah, they put jelly. And just like when I was a kid, I used to get like physicals to play football or wrestle. And I remember thinking like, don't get a boner. Don't get a boner, like no matter what. And like I was thinking that during this too. And so like yeah, so she sits me down, and as we're walking out, I mean, everybody is gone. There's no secretaries, there's no nothing. She says to me, your doctor put in a note that he wants to speak with you no matter what when the results are in. So wait here. And I'm like, that's bullshit. He didn't say that. So I'm like texting my wife, who is, mind you, at the time we had one car.
Yeah.
So she was waiting at her job for me to come pick her up because it's like 6:30. Who also, Akron General Cleveland Clinic. So she's at a different office. It's not the same one. She's downtown Akron. Okay. Sorry about that. And so she's waiting for me, and she's off work. So I'm texting her. I'm like, I'm telling you, I told you I had cancer. This is like insane. Oh, my wife is like 3 months pregnant or something at the time.
Wow.
So like I had just found out I was going to have a son. I knew she was pregnant for like a couple months before that. So I just found out I was having a son. Then the next week is when I found out I had cancer. So she pulls me back and she pulls me. And I knew it was bad because she grabbed a box of Kleenexes and sat next to me and handed me the phone. And I'm like, you're not handing me Kleenexes for nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like kind of shaking. And I just like pick up the phone. It's Dr. Orjakowski. And he's like, hey,
Really?
Well, it looks like you have cancer. And I'm like, looks like I have cancer or has cancer. He's like, well, you don't really know for sure until you do a biopsy and cut it out. And I would say you have cancer. I'm like 60-40. He's like 99. And I'm like, okay.
Jeez.
He's like, good news, you're healthy otherwise. And I'm like, except for cancer. Whoa, if you're gonna pin me down on what I said.
If you're gonna be a negative Nancy about it,
except for cancer. And I'm like, well, what? And he's just like, it's like 6:30, okay?
Yeah.
He's like, Dan, I gotta cut you off. I'm sorry. My wife wants to go to eat. She's hungry. I gotta let you go. I will try and schedule you an emergency appointment tomorrow. So wait by your phone.
Wow.
To be kidding me.
So that's a Tuesday. Wednesday, I'm like waiting by my phone all day. So again, what I do to take my mind off of this, my wife calls off work. I call off work. I go to Pad Thai. I love
nice.
Pad Thai. And then right by, they just closed this theater. Right by the Pad Thai. I don't even remember.
Montrose.
Montrose, yeah. I went and saw Straight Outta Compton. Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like waiting by the phone. I have it on full volume. They never call. I call them. They call me back during the movie. And they're like, well, we don't even have you in our system. And I was like, oh, Dr. O said he was going to do this at like 8 a.m. And she's like, well, I tell you what, I'll put an emergency appointment on there, but without the referral from your doctor, it's just going to get canceled. So, okay. So I called Dr. O and I'm like, you got to like put this in. He was like, I'm working on it. Oh, okay. So either way it gets in. So Thursday I go see my doctor. The guy who does my surgery, his name's Dr. Bro. You may recognize the name. His wife is Allison Bro. Go with Bro. She's like a judge in Akron. There's signs up for her all the time.
Really?
Say, go with Bro.
That's a great name.
Yeah. So Dr. Bro. And he plays it cool. He's real cool. The guy, my mom and dad are there, even though I'm like 30 and I wish they wouldn't have been. So I was okay. I was devastated, frankly. Devastated. I was crying, which was probably the only time I cried having cancer. Second and third time it came back, didn't cry at all, didn't really care. I only cried that one day, and I was just like, I'm not gonna fucking know my kids. I'm like, I'm gonna die, which was kind of dumb, but I'm like, I'm gonna die. So we went to my mom's house. We called my brother. We came over. We had pizza. Went to Coda's mom's house. Told her. Coda was really sad. I kind of wanted to be like, fucking told you. I kind of dunking on her about it, you know, like you said I didn't have cancer. Now what? Because I was just so pissed off.
So there's no escape from the negative side of that. You get a diagnosis like that, and it's like your mind thinks the worst right away.
Oh, I think I'm gonna die. I remember telling Erwin like I'm gonna die. I go to the Thomas house. I tell them maybe a couple days later. I just thought I was gonna die. And then you start looking at like, you know, you don't know what stage you're. By the way, you don't know you have cancer till they cut it out. Oh, well, why don't they biopsy? You cannot biopsy testicular cancer. It will spread like wildfire.
Really?
There is one way only if you're trying to avoid chemo. To do this, it's cut your testicle out, and then you don't know if you have cancer or not. They could cut it out and you don't. I have met several people who had both testicles removed and did not have cancer. That is a punch to the gut. I mean, you talk, I mean, I think like, I don't know, maybe suicide's better at that point. Like I'm putting it bluntly. These are things I've thought.
Yeah.
I've met several people had bilateral cancer, which is both testicles. So I have one testicle removed. Okay. I don't know if people know that or not. But when you have testicular cancer, they cut it out. They cut your whole testicle out through your stomach, about right here.
Oh man.
And you know, the cord, spermatic cord, they just like push your testicle and they go, they take the cord and every section of it is dissected, and then they test it so they can see how high the cancer moved up your spermatic cord.
Okay.
And
you said whatever. It passes fast, like it goes. Yeah.
They try and gauge like how the higher it went up, the more likely it spread to your lymph nodes.
Yeah.
So I had like no lymphatic invasion, is what they told me. So I don't know. How I felt, just shitty. I don't know. I'm just talking a lot, I guess, because it all happened fast and slow. It's a hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Oh, you have cancer. Well, what am I gonna do? I don't know, dude. Wait 2 weeks and we'll think about it. So Dr. Bro gets me in on Thursday at 11. He tells me I'm gonna be fine. He's like legit joking around. He's like, no one dies from this. You're gonna be cool. He was like laughing at me when I was told him I was worried. Real cool guy though. Made me feel at ease. I was like, will you tell my mom I'm not going to die? And he like laughed. And I'm like, dude, he's like texting and stuff. Dude, Dr. Bro is a good doctor. In a lot of ways, I'd recommend him. In some ways, I wouldn't. And I can get into that later.
Like they're balancing each other out, the two doctors. You know?
Right.
You know, one's so nervous, one's not. But like, and so my wife, you know, works at the hospital. She inadvertently like knows Dr. Bro too, like who's seen him in the doctor's lounge and stuff. And the other people who are urologists are like, the only thing Bro cares about is his investment accounts. And now I think about like when he was on his phone, was he like making
fucking do a trade, man?
You know? Yeah. And so because there would be times he'd be like, hold on, you know.
Jeez,
so,
man.
Sell these off real fast.
Don't mind me, I'm just dying here. You
so
know?
it's funny. Yeah. So he's like, all right, I'll tell your mom. Calls my mom over. He's not gonna die. And we go to his scheduler, who basically, like, I have somebody like this in my job. Her name is Marcia, because I overpromise and she tells me no on a lot of things. And like, so it's the same thing. He's like, get you in tomorrow at lunchtime. Be ready. She's like, no, you're not. You're booked full. He's like, I'll get you in. I'm like, what am I doing here? He was like, don't eat anything after midnight. I am getting you in tomorrow, no matter what. And she's like, no, he's not. And
clown show is.
I know. And he's just like, don't eat. Listen to me. Don't eat, because if you eat, I'm not going to get you in. So I wait all day by the phone. You know, I live in Hartwell. So I'm waiting all day, nervous as hell. It's Friday now. It's Friday. That's how fast they move. Thursday to Friday. Tuesdays when I found out. Thursdays when I met my surgeon. Friday. It's fast moving, so they need to move fast. So like I go have nothing, nervous as hell. They call me at like 2 or 3, and I remember thinking like, well, I didn't get in. She's a nurse practitioner, but it's kind of like his right-hand man / secretary / nurse practitioner / scheduler.
She probably knows what they can handle better than he can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Probably besides the surgery, probably does his job better.
Yeah.
But and who is a great person. She always remembered me. You'd be surprised people who don't remember you, even if you've seen them 3 times. She calls me at like 2 or 3. She's like, we're gonna get you in, but you're gonna be the last for the day at 6 o'clock. Okay, so I go in at 6 o'clock. I go there at 5, 4 or 6. Okay. Just like a normal job, these nurses, the nurses in the surgery and the nurses in the recovery room are like looking at their schedule. We're going home today at 7 or something, you know?
Right.
And I plop in there and they're all like kind of pissed at me. I mean, like legitimately, like
You're the guy that comes in as the restaurant's closing.
yes, it was exact. Dude, listen, that's like for restaurants, that happens in the medical field. And the more older I get, the more I realize everyone just fucking hates their job and would rather be at home.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a surgeon or a nurse, you know, surgical nurse or anything. So I get into the surgery. He's like, you know, I really don't know what's going on yet. You know, there's no
told you
like,
to fucking show up.
yeah, there's no like, this is what we're gonna do. He's just like, I think you have cancer. We're gonna cut it out. Blah blah blah. Show up. And it's kind of like, well, you don't have a choice to not treat it.
Right.
Okay. So you're just going to do exactly what I say, no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay. So I get in there. I'm laying down. I'm nervous as shit. I hate surgeries. I hate getting put under. And I had two nurses. And I wouldn't normally bring this up, but they were 2 black ladies and they were dancing, like shucking and doing stuff like this, like they were like, oh yeah, like it's Friday. And I was just like, hey, you guys are having fun, aren't you? And she was like, you're my last appointment. And like, and the one was like, I know your mom. And I was like, do you? And she's like, yeah, Lori Derrig. And I'm like, okay, she's in a good mood. Like, this is going to go well.
Right.
I mean, like literally they were doing stuff like this. It was kind of like funny. I'm like laying there and they're like dancing, talking about what they're going to do when they get off.
God, don't brace me for failure. Please, please don't break my heart here.
And, you know, they're not supposed to say to your mom. So then she sees my mom a few weeks later, which it's not that I was hiding this from my mom. But she's like, oh yeah, I had your son in surgery the other day. They're not allowed to say that.
Yeah, it's confidential.
And she was like, oh, I don't know the lady's name. Oh, your nurse was, and I'm just going to say Chris. Your nurse was Chris Kessinger. How did you know that? She told me. Okay. She's not supposed to tell you that.
Yeah,
okay. But my mom was there. So it's not, but still, what if I would have done this like solo?
Yeah.
So, okay. I have that surgery. I wake up, it's Friday night. I'm a teetotaler, so is Coda. We don't drink or smoke. I have like no ability for any of that. So people are always like, oh, this is going to be low dose anesthesia. You'll be up in an hour and a half. Like this is like, you know, like drinking. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't drink. So it affected me greatly. And I was like dead tired. It was like 9 o'clock. They're like shaking me. The nurse is shaking me. Wake up. You need to leave. We were supposed to leave hours ago.
You're ruining their Friday night plans.
She's pissed at me. I mean, like legit pissed at me. She really was like huffing off. Like, I was supposed to leave here. Like, and I'm just like, lady, not my problem. Coda's like, you need to go. They're yelling at us. You're in here laying down. They're yelling at me and telling me I need to get you to leave. I'm like, give me my fucking clothes. I was really pissed. She hands me my clothes and I was like, fuck you guys, fuck you guys, fuck you. And I just start throwing shirt down, pants down, socks down. I'm like, fuck you guys. And like, I say this to like the nurse and my wife. And my mom's like, oh, he's having a bad reaction to the medication. I'm like, I'm not having a bad reaction. Fuck you guys for trying to kick me out of here. I was like, I just had cancer surgery. I was like, wheel me out. I'll fucking sleep here tonight in the lobby. And they're like, you're not allowed to do that. Also, to go off being a teetotaler, they hadn't told me yet if my cancer had spread.
Yeah.
And so a resident was like, oh, well, you know, this, and this. And I'm like, I don't know shit. He tells me about how I have an enlarged lymph node. And I'm like, you're the first person to tell me that. Dr. Bro was supposed to call, give me that info. He did not. Because I had an emergency CT scan. And so he's like, yeah, and he pulls up the blot or whatever that is like CT scans I know now are like these like electronic scans that they like lay on top of each other. Kind of looks like an ink blot or whatever. What's it called? Like the
Rorschach test. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm like, you can't read that. That's fucking bullshit. You're just making this up. And he's like kind of pissed at me that I said that. And he's taken my history. Do you ever smoke? I'm like, I've never smoked once in my life. I've tried to avoid cancer. And then he laughs at me. And I'm like, dude, I'm not kidding. But okay. So whatever. Dude, out of sight, out of mind. I go to Indiana, which is where Lance Armstrong was treated.
Okay.
because I'm nervous. All right, so Dr. Bro couldn't answer my questions. I was like asking him a shitload of questions at like 2 weeks. So I'm speeding it up. It's like 2-3 weeks later.
Yeah.
Dr. Bro is like, hey, you're out of my territory. All I do is that surgery. Do you have questions? I'll write you a prescription. Go to Indiana. Well, I only have insurance for here.
State of Ohio.
Not state of Ohio. Just my wife's hospital.
Okay.
Like literally, if I were shot right today in here, I'd be like, take me to Akron General, not Suma.
Yeah.
Like they won't cover me. It has to be life or death, and immediate. And and even then, like I've heard stories you have to fight it. So I didn't want to fight it. So I'm like, okay. So I pay out of pocket. I go see Dr. Foster, Dr. Einhorn. Dr. Einhorn and Dr. Foster treated Lance Armstrong, who also was stage 3, like me. And he had metastases all the way to his brain. I have not, hopefully do not, or will not ever. So he had to have a surgery, and he had, so Lance Armstrong did 1 BEP, which I use acronyms because that's what we use. BEP stands for bleomycin.
Thank you for answering.
Etoposide and cisplatinum.
Okay.
And then he transitioned to VIP because bleomycin destroys your lungs. I currently have lung damage, permanent. It will never go away.
What are some effects from that? Just breathing problems?
I have it called DLCO, and I really don't know what that stands for anymore. I don't think about it enough, but you could Google it, DLCO. Has to do with like your lungs' ability to like disperse oxygen throughout your body.
Okay.
So like when you get your oxygen taken on your finger, they can like tell. So like I'm not like at 80 or anything low, but I've gone down to 91 just sitting here, which is like not considered good. Like, you know, Coda's aunt is a doctor, and she's like, Danny, I've met people with one lung at 99%. So you know, whatever. It's not the best, but dude, I still wrestle. I freaking do tournaments. I can like, you know what I mean? Like
very physical sports.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But my doctor, who I'll get into, is Dr. Gilligan. That's my guy. Okay. He's who I ended up with. So he was like, well, the reason why this guy knows everything about cancer, at least. He's like a true savant. He's like, the reason why we treated Lance Armstrong with 1 BP and 3 VIP versus 3 BEP like you're going to do is even if there's a small chance of a 1% drop off in lung capacity, Lance Armstrong, that's enough to make a difference to not be able to cycle at a professional level. He's like, you don't need to worry about this. Although I did fail a lung exam and almost not to get to do BEP. We're going to get into that too. It was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Right up. I mean, arguing in the chair with the nurse administering my cancer treatment, my chemotherapy. So I went to Foster. He's like old school dude. He's retired now. Einhorn, Dr. Einhorn, okay, treated the first patient ever to survive testicular cancer. Had an over 90% 2-year death rate. Everyone died within 2 years. No one lived 5 years. In the 70s, no one lived.
Wow.
If I had my cancer in 1972, I would have probably been dead by 73, 4, or 5 for sure.
Yeah.
And I would have just died. There was no treatment. None.
And that's not a long time ago. Like,
That's
it's
not
crazy
a long time
how
ago.
far
The
we've
first
come.
person ever to be treated successfully with testicular cancer just died in February of 22. He lived in Indiana. At IUPUI's Dr. Einhorn treated him. And they were throwing at, and this is back more like Wild Wild West, getting trials, all this shit. No, I'm an oncologist. I'm going to throw shit against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And they treated this guy in literally that method. And something stuck. And that's literally the reason I'm still alive. They found out that platinum-based chemotherapy, mind you, he did several other types of chemotherapy. I can't think of these other acronyms. But he did like stuff that had no effect on it that can also kill you. And just hoping for something because he was 21, 22. And they started treating him Oh, VIP, which is Vin Blastin, instead of Vin Blastin. I can't think of them. A different type of platinum based Vin, and I can't remember the exact. I didn't do VIP, but you can look these things up. TIP. These are the acronyms you need to know. VIP, TIP, BEP, EP, and RPLND, which I did also, and high dose chemo with what are the HDCT with ST, that's stem cell transplant when you're done to survive.
And what does all this feel like? What kind of effect is this having on your body as you're going through it? Like,
So-
are we talking like, life draining to where you feel
Oh, dude, when you're in chemo, especially BP, which is 5 days a week, I hear, dude, I would be in like the chemo room and this old ass lady, and be like, Mrs. Johnson, you're coming back. And for one, I got there at 7 a.m. She got there at noon. She leaves at 2. They're like, Mrs. Johnson, we'll see you in 3 weeks. And I want to be like, fuck you, bitch. I'm coming back tomorrow morning for like 8 more hours after this.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And so I was really pissed at these people. It's not their fault. And I would think like, this is the only time I feel like bad for myself. I'd be like, I wish I had that cancer, because that treatment is a fucking cakewalk. They don't even lose their hair.
Yeah.
Most of those people in the chemo place had hair. It's fucking a lie on the internet. I lost every hair on my body. Nut hair was the first to go, actually.
How quickly?
Day. So that's the thing. You talk about days in chemotherapy. And day 1 is the first day you have treatment. So I would say it was between day 15 and 20.
Wow, that fast.
Day 15
to
to 20.
2 to 3 weeks.
Yes, and every hair feels like it's being plucked off of your head. And I can remember laying in my bed in the back of my head going like this and feeling like I had tweezers. And I was like, please God, tell me that's not what losing your hair feels like from chemo. And I like turn around and I look at my bed and I'm like, there's hairs all over there.
Wow.
And I have a bald spot right here. I'm like, well, that must be what it's going to feel like.
Yeah.
And it did feel like that until every hair on my head was gone. Arm hair, leg hair didn't feel that way. Just the head hair. And I can remember like Coda would just like grab my leg and pull hair. And she'd be like, look at this.
Wow.
She was
Seen in
just
cabin fever.
I couldn't feel it.
Mhm.
It wasn't like a prick or anything. She could just grab it, go. And she was like, look, just like all over. And I was like, stop it.
Yeah.
Cause I was just like scared about shit like that. I really didn't like being bald. My daughter still calls me the bald man.
Oh.
That is my nickname. And I mean, like, and I'm not like kidding. Like she'd be like, hey, bald man. Like just out of the blue.
Good Lord.
She'd be like,
Kids
"You're
say the
baldest
darndest
man
things.
on earth." She's 5.
Yeah.
She was 3. No, she was 4 at the time. She's the baldest man on earth, bald man. So she was ruthless.
Yeah, kids are brutal, man.
And she's really brutal. She didn't, my kids don't understand cancer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've had cancer their entire lives.
Yeah.
So you got to think, my son was born 6 months after I was diagnosed, and I've not like declared cancer free or anything, but my last cancer treatment. So he wasn't born, and it was last end of like, let's say 53 weeks ago or something. So like April 1st or something of last year.
Mhm.
So like I had cancer his entire life. All
Yeah.
he knows is a dad with cancer. Same thing for my daughter. All she ever knew was a dad with cancer. So she doesn't know
Yeah.
about it
Mhm.
in the same way that like people get sick and die. Now, my son kind of figured it out because this one kid at school was like, oh God, what's his name? Oscar or whatever his name is. Lucas. Lucas wasn't at school today, Dada. His grandma died from cancer. Yeah, that sucks. And that, I guess, maybe a little bit made him think that people die from cancer, but we were never like, oh, Dada could die.
Mhm.
Just Dada is sick. Give him space. I really miss being able to like play with my kids the times I've gone through treatment. I've missed just a lot of stuff. But it was well worth it. So Dr. Foster, okay. So let's go back to him. I'm sorry. I'm going back to 2015. Dr. Foster, I'm not coherent, guys. I apologize.
You're,
This-
you're good.
You're great. No.
Blame it. They call this chemo fog, although I don't have that anymore. But I probably had it for at least 6 months after my last treatment. So Dr. Foster's just like, don't get chemo. If you were my son, I would tell you right now not get chemo. He's like, I will put you 80-20. 80% doesn't come back. He's like, if you would have come to me 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have blasted you with 3 or 4 rounds with chemo and you might kill you. He's like, and 80% of those people that I've sometimes killed, because chemo kills you, like literally during treatment.
So this seems like an outdated concept that like many doctors don't want to get behind anymore.
Yeah. So like you need a doctor up on research.
Mhm.
Like doctors in Akron are dumbasses with this. They're not up on research. And they're just like cancer, treatment. And Cleveland Clinic that does research. And I'm not talking about Cleveland Clinic Akron. I'm talking about get a specialist in Cleveland who does part of their job is research based. And writes like Dr. Gilligan, he writes the testicular cancer guidelines for treatment throughout the world.
Mhm.
Okay. But if you're in Akron, even if it says Cleveland Clinic on there, or you're in Mercy and Canton, they are not Cleveland Clinic practitioners. They work at a hospital that got bought by Cleveland Clinic. Okay. There's a huge fucking difference and they don't know what they're talking about.
And most might not know that difference either, you know, going
No.
into it for treatment.
Oh, most people don't. I heard this dumbass from Ravenna was like, I am at Cleveland Clinic. I'm like, dude, you were getting treated at Akron General.
Yeah.
You are not at Cleveland Clinic. There's one expert in the state of Ohio. That's no, okay. My cancer is less than 1% of all cancers. There are no experts. You go to the Testicular Cancer Foundation website, click on experts. You click down states. There's none in Florida, which were what, 30 million people?
Wow.
0. There's one in the entire state of Ohio. It's Dr. Gilligan. He's in Cleveland. There's 0 at the James Center. There's 0 in Cincinnati, and there sure as shit isn't anybody in Akron and Canton.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but Dr. Foster is like, don't treat it. I wouldn't treat it. If I were you, if I were 65, whatever, I would treat it because if I get secondary cancer in 20, 30 years, I'll be dead anyways. Doesn't matter. I might not live 20 more years. But you're 30. Don't get it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Meanwhile, Dr. Bro is like trying to set me up for it. I mean, look, legit, like going on the WebMD and like being like, if you have this, go over here, like a Venn diagram of cancer. And he's not the only one who did that. There's a doctor in Akron who's an oncologist who did the same thing with me. So this is why I always sought like second, third opinions. So I didn't do it. And he's like, well, give me your regimen from Dr. Bro of scans every 2 months for 2 years. He's like, good God, he's trying to fucking kill you with radiation. He was like, this is what you're going to do. And Dr. Bro just did implicitly whatever Dr. Foster said.
Yeah.
And Dr. Einhorn. Dr. Einhorn still works. He's like 90 years.
Wow.
I've emailed him. He responds instantly. Dr. Einhorn is the man. He's the guy who created this treatment. That is the reason I'm alive. He's the coolest dude in the world. People love him. And his first patient sadly did die last year, but after 47 years of treatment.
Wild.
Right. Yeah.
So that's worth it, right?
Yeah.
And also, again, he had like 6, 7, 8, maybe more rounds of stuff that didn't work before he tried stuff that did work. So all right, for those who don't know, and you guys probably, I sometimes have theory of mind. You guys don't know this. IUPUI, Indiana University in Indianapolis, because that's where Dr. Einhorn has always worked. That is the mecca of testicular cancer treatment throughout the whole world. And his disciples, like a Tim Gilligan, are the ones who are treating it at like Sloan Kettering, Cleveland Clinic, UCLA. All of those people came through Dr. Einhorn. None of these people are like, I'm going to be an independent expert on my own. No, they're not experts.
He's it.
Right.
If they didn't go through Dr. Einhorn, they didn't really become an expert. And I always say it's put up or shut up. You know, who's good at basketball? I am. Oh, you in the NBA?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, no, I was on the And One tour.
Come play with
Okay.
us. 4 words you'll never hear.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, I would encourage people to look up Dr. Einhorn too. Again, he was very close relationship with Lance Armstrong.
I have an inside baseball question during this time. How now you mentioned your mom and dad. How open were you with family and with friends during this time about your condition? Like,
So my close friends, I was embarrassed to say in testicular cancer. So my close friends knew, but not like peripheral friends. I mean, I've been Facebook friends with you since day one.
Yeah.
Right. Facebook started. Did I make any post about it until last year?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't know till last year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had cancer over 7 years before I made my first post. I was very private about it and quite embarrassed because I I would prefer to like come off as Superman, and cool and charismatic,
And that's understandable. That's who you are. You want to hold on to your
Yeah.
identity. Yeah.
and I don't want to come off as vulnerable to people, especially people in left field of my life.
Yeah.
And it just the last year it got to the point where I couldn't hide anymore. If you saw me, you knew I had cancer, or you knew something was wrong with me. And I didn't want to hide that anymore, because I was lucky that I have kind of not looked like I was a cancer, like in treatment.
Yeah.
And so I banked on that for a long time. And, you know, I had shame about losing a testicle. You know, I just tried to hide on that. And in fact, I used to tell people, because it spread to my lymph nodes. I used to say, oh, it spread to my lymph nodes. They would say, oh, you have lymphoma. And I would just go with it.
Right.
Oh yeah, I got lymphoma.
Yeah.
So that they didn't know I was missing a testicle, because I didn't want to feel like less of a man.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to ask that,
Yeah.
but I didn't. I
Yeah.
want to be gentle with it.
You know, and you know, I have tons of friends now. I've been through support groups where every person has my cancer, or at least had. They're either in treatment or out of treatment, but either at some point they know. And several of them had bilateral. And yeah, it sucks, dude. I feel bad for them. There's a lot of things that come with that. Lifelong medication. I mean, there's a lot of things with being on chemo. I was really scared of like Ukraine war. What if it came into the World War III and there's like no chemo supply?
Right.
I'm like, I'll die simply because there's an idiot in Russia who wants to take over another country.
Yeah.
And now it's slid into, I was like, so you're going through all these dumbass scenarios, and like my friends with bilateral, if there's ever a shortage of testosterone, they're going to die. You know what I mean? Like they won't live forever without it. Or what will happen is they'll be sickly and it will be ugly and whatever. So I'm not on any testosterone or anything. They don't give it to you if you lose one testicle. So I'll tell you this though, and I do think one is supposed to be good enough. Good enough is not the same. So day 3 of me having my orchiectomy, which is when they remove your testicle, that's the name of the surgery. Day 3, I woke up tired as shit. Like my eyes were heavy. I've basically felt that way in my life every day since then. And I've complained to doctors about it. They're just like, right.
Even now?
Even now.
Wow.
I'm always tired. And I mean like yawning, tired. And it's clinical. But the thing is I've been tested and they're like, well, you're lower, but you're not so low that we need to treat it. So I am not on TRT or anything like that. I wish I could. I really think I need it. The problem is, so if anybody hears this and one day they get testicular cancer, get your testosterone checked prior to removing your testicle, because that's the only way they have a baseline. Because if you drop 500 ND or whatever it's called, let's just call it points, but it's like nano something. But it's still within the normal range. They will not prescribe you TRT unless they knew that you dropped 500.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a tip, and I wish I would have known it. I would have done that. All it takes is blood work.
Right. What did you do? So you were with the doctors in Indiana, and the one was telling you not to do treatment and chemo and stuff. What were your next steps? What did you actually end up doing?
So I did, what did he give me? He gave me a regimen of 3 months. These are scans, CT scan, chest x-ray, blood work. 3 months, 4 months, something like that. Like 4, 6.
Just like check-ins, but not actual like treatments. Like he was basically like updates to see.
This is, dude, we're more in a wait and see scenario than blow people up with chemo and radiation now than they used to be.
Gotcha.
So check-ins, they call it active surveillance.
Yeah.
And I think this is really utilized in a lot of cancers now, because they used to just treat people. And in fact, to go off, like we were talking earlier about breast cancer before this started, and I have read the research because I've become, and my wife and I, and my wife's aunt, who's a doctor, have kind of all become obsessed with reading about the research, not just my cancer, veers off to others. And there's actually absolutely no evidence. And this is like National Health Institute of the US printed this out a couple years ago. Very unpopular to say. I think in 10 years, maybe it'll be less popular. I mean, more popular to say. There's no evidence that early detection of breast cancer via mammogram has any impact on the longevity of the patient. In other words, you're going to die. You're going to die. If you have the non-treatable type, if you found it, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so basically, you know, and she is a medical doctor, said, I prescribe mammograms because I have to. I don't really believe in them because, and here's the research, and this is printed by, I mean, it's printed. It's real research.
Yeah.
This is the research. There's no dispute.
Legitimate source.
It's
Yeah.
And so she's like, but do I do it? Yeah. Insurances want me to. My practice wants me to. Patients want it. So, you know, I keep my mouth shut. So the new research over the last 10 years in testicular cancer has been wait and see.
Yeah.
Wait and see. Before we were talking about boy bands. I don't know if that was before this or
it was before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So like LFO, right? The more you have cancer, the more you start realizing people die from cancer treatment, not cancer. Like LFO, Rich Cronin, the lead singer.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when he got cancer, he got leukemia and he died.
Yeah.
And then I always thought he died from cancer. And then I start reading about him one day. Actually, he died from chemotherapy, which caused a blood clot in his lung, which I also got a blood clot in my lung. Caused him to have a stroke, and he died. He did not die from leukemia. And when I realized it was leukemia and I had cancer, I was like, you know, that's very treatable cancer. What happened here? Oh, he didn't die from cancer. He died from chemotherapy, which caused him to have a pulmonary embolism, which caused him to have a stroke and die. And you start reading, when you're actually breaking down, before you have cancer, you're like, Chris died from cancer.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan died from cancer. And then you actually go on their wiki page and it says like they actually, and it doesn't word it like Chris actually died from the treatment. No, it will be like Chris had a pulmonary embolism or some other like thing that I know chemo causes and died during cancer treatment. So they did not die from the cancer. They died from the treatment. So we're actually killing people when maybe 80% didn't need it.
Wow.
So I chose to wait and see. Now,
Yeah.
you're on a 5-year protocol, 5 years. At year 4, and now this is dumb. Dr. Bro, who's not an expert, but I was staying to him because he was basically just going to Dr. Foster. And we became kind of like buddies, you know, not a doctor-patient relationship, which is a bad thing. Yeah, it was a bad thing. So he calls me, my phone's ringing. I'm with a client in my job, and I'm like, I'll take this. Hold on. I thought I was getting good news because I just did a scan. I honestly thought he was calling me and saying, because he said at my last year's appointment, you're doing so well, which he was wrong. Dr. Gilligan was like, don't, you shouldn't have listened to him. And I had already seen Dr. Gilligan, but I did everything through Dr. Bro because it was in Akron. So I see he's calling me, I answer, and I was like, hey, what's up? And he's like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, oh, yeah. He's like, and I like put it on speakerphone because I'm like, my client, you know, I'm about to get good news. Let's listen to this. He's like, and I probably shouldn't have done this with a client, but it was a client I was buddies with. And he was like, this was July 11th, 2019. So I remember all the dates. It was August 18th when I was officially diagnosed, July 11th. He's like, yeah, it looks like you have some, and I always had enlarged lymph nodes in my retroperitoneal area. He's like, looks like you've had some activity in your lymph nodes. You probably have cancer again. I was like, what? And I take him to speakerphone. And he was like, yeah, you know, you went up and, you know, might not be. It was like 1.1 centimeter, just like right on the border. Anything below 1 is not clinical. So it was like 1.3 actually. He's like, you know, maybe you don't, he started talking himself down from his original diagnosis.
Yeah.
I think he didn't want to give me bad news. And I was like, ballpark it 60-40. He's like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Jeez.
60. Okay. The next day, I think he starts to get nervous. So I really did nothing. He didn't like give me a game plan. He was like, you need an expert. Call me if you can't find one.
That is freaking
the
scary.
fuck,
Yeah,
man?
that's terrible.
So, okay. So I'm sitting at Starbucks on a Friday. This was a Thursday. It's Friday now. I'm with my wife. And she's starting to be like, yeah, you have cancer again. And I'm like, nah, dude. He was saying there's still a chance. He calls me and he basically backtracks on everything he said. And he was like, no, it's like 99%. You have cancer. I was wrong. I'm trying to find you an expert. I called Dr. Foster. He is out. He's retired. He will not even look at your scans. You need to find an expert, which I was already working with Dr. Gilligan, who is an expert.
Do they not have? I know you said this was like a very small percentage of cancer. These, like, I would assume a doctor would have someone they can refer you to.
No.
Is it because there's just not?
There's
It's
not enough.
Yeah.
They'll refer
That's
you to the
crazy to
generalist.
me.
They'll refer you to a generalist, and I have seen generalist oncologists, and they
Yeah.
don't know shit about
So if
my
you get
cancer.
a rare kind, like
That's
you're just
Yeah,
wild.
it's kind of like screwed. So he told me find my own expert. Now, Coda, my wife, who I'm just been blessed to have been with for 20 years, almost 18 years dating, who teaches something called Ready, or I don't know what it stands for, but it like has to do with when a new physician at the Cleveland Clinic, because she's a psychologist, she like kind of teaches like the Cleveland Clinic way and bedside manners and stuff. And one of the other teachers was Dr. Gilligan, who's a testicular cancer expert.
Yeah.
And when they were introducing themselves, he said, I'm an oncologist, hematologist. My expertise is testicular cancer. And then in break, she talks to him. So I started seeing him. This was 2017. But he's like, you don't need to see me. You're going to be fine. So I stopped seeing him. But in 2019, I had to go back to him. I email him. I have his like personal email because Coda's friends with him. And I really shouldn't have done that.
Mhm.
But I'm like, I need an answer right now because my cool as a cucumber urologist is like kind of freaking out on the phone. And he's calling me. He's like, I looked at your scans. I'm on the fence. I sent it to someone else. He's on the fence. Dr. Pro's like, get a PET scan. He's like, I don't know that that's useful, but I'm not going to deny it. He's like, your insurance might. So I get a PET scan. Of course, I have all this activity. PET scan is like you drink this like radioactive thing. It's really horrible. And then like, which is like in and of itself can kill you.
Yeah.
By the way, all of these things that I've described, except for plain surgery, can either kill you now immediately or will have negative effects on your health down the line. So,
And they're just universally misunderstood as being the best thing for you during those situations, the best treatment.
Which is one of the things that blows my mind. Like the amount of money we like raise in this country for cancer treatment or like research, and for there to be so much misinformation or misconception, like blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's been around for so long.
Dude,
like,
oncologists don't know.
It's wild.
Oncologists don't know. So I saw an oncologist down in Green, and I had already saw Dr. Gilligan, but he was trying to get me to Dr. Klein, who has since retired, to do my surgery. Who again, he is an expert.
Yeah.
He's retired, so I didn't list him, but he was an expert in 2019 when he was not retired. So I like to say I had like MJ and Pippin, Dr. Gilligan, Dr. Klein. So I can't get into him right away. He's a busy guy. So I go see this oncologist, and she's like, no, you're not even eligible for an RP-L&D. I eventually get to see Dr. Klein. And again, she's just like generally looking at WebMD.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Why was it your conditions? You weren't credible
She was wrong.
enough?
She said,
Okay.
she said I wasn't eligible. I have seminoma, not non-seminoma traditionally. It was like experimental. I got denied with my insurance. I had to fight them and get it because it was not the traditional path. They weren't doing this 10 years before 10 years ago. So I see Dr. Klein. He was like, who the hell does she think is treated with this if it's not you? And I'm like, I can't answer that. I don't know. Dr. Klein is like autistic or something. He like literally is. And if you look him up, Dr. Eric Klein, he was in the news recently because he is trying to do this like blood test that my cancer can't be detected by blood work, by the way. But he's trying to create a blood test that would detect my cancer, therefore detecting a bunch of others that are not detected. So I get blood work every 3 months. It's just like an exercise in futility. I've never popped anything. I have no tumor markers.
Right.
And in fact, it's mostly to see that my cancer did not morph, which is possible the further you get from your original diagnosis, which would be a game changer because I've already done BEP, but B would dramatically overnight decrease my mortality. Like much harder to treat. If you have cancer and it morphs, it's much harder to treat, all these things. So Dr. Eric Klein, he is cool, but like autistic. He'll be like when I had a lymph node over a centimeter, or it went from 0.4 to 0.9. So right there, right? And I was like, but it more than doubled. He's like, so? And I'm like, well, it grew as a non-clinical. And I'm like, well, it's almost a centimeter. He's like, "What don't you understand? It's not clinical." And I'm just like, "Okay, but it doubled
No
in size."
concern, like
No, dude, great surgeon. But that's exactly how he is. He's just like non-clinical. And I'm like, non-clinical, but it doubled in size. He's like, "What did I just say?" He's like, "Non-clinical."
Yeah, like he's explained the same speech 58 times today, you know?
Yeah, I know. So for him, it's just a job too. So whatever. I had a surgery. This is 2019. I had on August 13th. It's called retroperitoneal lymph node dissection. This is a horrific surgery in a lot of ways. Worse than chemo.
Really?
It was very, very bad. Again, I got like denied. I went on vacation right before because I was like, didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, there's like a 2% chance you die during surgery. It's a very, they slice you open. And I don't know if you guys like want to see my scar or, it's very big. I think we'd be best served if I'll show it around or whatever. How it looked at the time.
Would you mind if we put it to the camera or?
Yeah. I don't know, Chris, I'll hand it to you.
Okay.
we saw Ryan Tom's. Remember Tom's?
Yeah.
That one was wild.
Yeah.
I don't.
He that we had a guest on that donated a part of his liver, and he showed us his.
Is it like through here?
It was like a T, upside down T, but I mean, I'm telling you, oh yeah, very similar to that. He showed it to us unsutured, like just open, and it looked like literally if you took like a steak and like split it. I'm like, bro, why do you have a picture of that?
Yeah,
like, why are you wide open like that?
They fillet you.
It was wild.
And I guess
That's very similar. Yeah.
I wish I were a little thinner, but whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That's
right down
gnarly,
the-
yeah.
Never
on the
really
navel.
like healed up, and all
Yeah.
through here and here specifically, I would for a month I would be like bleeding. And
Yeah.
fat would be seeping through, and lymph like things would be seeping through. I ruined basically all the shirts I wore for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I would just be constantly seeping through them.
Yeah, like what do you like? Is there bandages or like anything?
So those staples, the lady who
Yeah.
pulled them out, tore me open on accident. So, and that's why I, instead of like, I've seen this scar and it's like crisp
Mhm.
on others, on my friends. And for me, it was not. And it's because when she opened me, it was like, and went like that.
Yeah.
And so I never truly like healed up in that way. I would have to go get a second surgery to like slice me, but it would
like,
be
take
more
the skin
cosmetic.
out.
It's not like they're
Yeah.
going through. So here's what they do for the retro lymph node peritoneal dissection, lymph node dissection. So I actually had cancer on my aorta,
Mhm.
but it was a lymph node. So it wasn't aorta cancer or anything, but it was lymph node on my aorta. And you know, the vena cava and the aorta, they come up, one does like this. I don't remember the order. And your kidneys, all these things have lymph nodes in your chest, just lymph nodes all over your body. So they like open you and they put all of your guts on the table, like everything, like your
they
intestines.
take it out.
They take everything out because you have like lymph nodes on your spine, and they need to be able to get through your stomach to your spine and like dissect it. So it's like a 12 to 14-hour surgery. So my surgery, I started at 5:30 a.m. and I woke up. I was like, "What time is it?" And she was like, 6:40. I was like, "What the hell?" It took forever.
Yeah.
So I was like, Dr. Klein was like, "It's going to take 6 hours." So I'm like, "What happened?" She's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I'm like, "It went way longer." And she's like, "Did it? I don't know."
I'm the guy laying on the fucking scaffold here.
She's just a nurse in the recovery room. And so, and I do remember the guy wheeling me over there, and she's like, "Mr. Derrig, what's your pain level?" I'm like, 1,000,000. She's like, "No, 1 through 10." I was like, 1,000,000.
Can't count that high.
And she was like, "Okay." And I was like, and this is God's honest truth, and I really meant it. I said, "I want you to kill me. I want you to give me enough drugs to kill me. I want to die." And she was like, "I can't do that, sir." And I was like, "I will sign a waiver right now if you kill me."
Yeah, that sounds worse than chemo in my opinion.
And she was like, and then she giggles and she's like, "I'm definitely not doing that." She's like, "But I'll give you a little more fentanyl." So it was just horrific pain. And I can remember laying there. This all seems disjointed to people. I'm sorry if I'm talking, but I can remember laying there and being like, "Oda, I fucked up. I should have done radiation. I should have done these other things." Because they gave me the choice. This surgery, like I said, it wasn't even what my insurance wanted me to do. And the nurse was like, blitzed me, was like, "Have you ever seen somebody die from radiation exposure?" I have. And it's painful and it takes a long time. You did the right thing. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. And you better start breathing because you're going to give yourself pneumonia because everything hurts so bad. You're like, you're taking these like little breaths.
Yeah.
And she was like, every hour I'm supposed to move my legs just like up and down. And she's like, start moving your legs. And I mean, I was like so pissed off at this lady. And then I see her like 4 or 5 days later. She's like, I thought you were going to punch me. I was like, I don't think you understood how. So that was the thing. We got into it because she was like, giving you Tylenol. They always like scream out what they're giving so the other nurse can like code it. Then they're always, what's your birthday? Like giving Tylenol, patient number, whatever, with the birthday. Okay. She's like, lift up your hand. And I'm like, I can't move. And she's like, lift up your hand. And I'm like, I can't move.
Just so much pain.
I was in so much pain.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that my neck was going to hurt and my shoulders were going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, patient's refusing. And then like walks away. I'm like,
Jesus.
I'm not refusing.
You can't give it to me. Like
I had a thing in me here, a thing in me here, and a thing in me here. I have 3 ways for you to intravenously or whatever give me medication.
Yeah.
You want to give me an Advil pill? You can't put it in a thing. I was like, then I must not need it.
Yeah.
We kind of got into it. But yeah, that was strange. So like you walk with like you use like a walker, for like a week.
Yeah.
Like an old person.
If you can't even lift your arm, I can't even imagine walking.
Horrible. So the next day, they tell you walking the next day. The next day, this little like 90-pound, 95-pound like Asian nurse is like little young woman. It's just like, all right, Mr. Derrig, we're gonna get up and walk. And I'm like, hell no. Who's gonna pick me up? That's gonna be me. There's this like orderly that I was like talking to just a little bit before that, but he was like jacked,
Like, oh, he's gonna be the one, definitely.
Like 250 or something.
He's gonna lift me over his head.
Dude, maybe 270. I don't know. It was huge.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a mountain. And it, with arms like this big. And I'm like, that's the guy I want picking me up.
Sven.
And I said, I want him walking with me this first time, not you. She kind of took offense to that. And I don't frankly care. Right. But it wasn't his job, but I was like, I'm not getting up unless he's the guy who helps me and walks next to me. Cause they gave me a walker, but somebody's in charge of grabbing you if you fall. And that's who I want. Yeah. And so he did it. We did like a short, like 100-foot, 50-foot walk or something, 50 feet back.
Very tender and ginger at the time. Like you're going as slow as possible. And
I remember Erwin was like, you walk slower than my grandma before she died and she was old.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, I was going like this fast.
I don't have a choice, Dick.
Yeah, I know. It was insane. I was in so much pain. And they gave me a catheter through my spine and it was like 8 inches long. And so I actually had no feeling from my knees to here except pain. Oh. So like I couldn't feel my legs. And they must have hit a nerve because I still can't feel like right here. Can't see I'm reaching the inner part, like my right
groin and thigh.
Yeah, I can't feel it. Another thing again is for this stage 2 cancer, you don't know you have cancer.
Yeah.
I'm having this surgery because remember, what did I say in the beginning? You cannot biopsy testicular cancer. It will spread like wildfire.
Faster. Mm-hmm.
So,
and they can't do anything once they remove it. Like at that point, they can't check anything. Like irrelevant. You just take it out and hope for the best.
Take everything out and hope for the best.
Wow.
So a few days later is when they found out, like, oh, you have cancer.
Yeah.
Same thing with the orchiectomy, whatever. I was hospitalized for a week then.
Wow.
So I'm trying to think. My son was 3. My daughter was 1 and 10 months. My son, so they had to put it in their little kid. And I was like, well, and before I could answer, Enzo's like, oh, you must have got stung by a bee. The only thing he knows about being sick and being in pain is bee stings. And I'm like, yep, I got stung by a bee. And actually, he couldn't pronounce bee. He used to say bun bee, bumblebee, bun bee. So I would be like, yeah, the bun bee got me. I didn't see my kids for a week, except one time they came to the Cleveland Zoo and saw me. But yeah, that was really weird. And I remember my wife, isn't this so shitty? Like, think about work, She's like, because I was off work for 6 weeks. She's like, think about this. The last couple of weeks, you might feel okay, and you'll still be at home watching TV. And that is like I said earlier, like even surgeons, they don't want to be at their job. They'd rather
Right.
be home. So like I remember she was like, this might be the best couple weeks of your life when you start feeling good because you still won't have to work. She's like, might be the last few weeks of your life before you retire that you get this kind of time because I had no duties. My wife was doing everything.
So that's what I wanted to touch on too. So you're basically bedridden for the most part.
Yes.
And
They
what?
put my bed. They put me and my wife's bed
Mhm.
in the living room.
Okay. Like a medical bed.
No, regular
regular
bed.
bed.
Oh my God. I used to get off the bed like this. Like I would just
Oh,
like
God.
slide down until I could get off of it because you had no ability to
Jeez.
contract the muscles in your abdomen.
And what's her duties during this time? Like, what is she
Taking
doing
care
to
of my
help you?
kids, putting them to sleep.
Mhm.
At this point, my wife would take Esme, I would take Enzo up until stage 2 cancer. And I would put Enzo to bed. She would put Esme to bed.
Okay.
After this, they got 6 weeks of just my wife. My son never went back to me for that. Actually kind of hurt. My son never let me put him to sleep again in that way. Now, subsequently, when he got a little bit older, like two years later, maybe. So like he wants me to put him to bed now, but in that method where he was 3, it wasn't until he got older and really doesn't need somebody to put him to bed did he even allow me to come back and lay with him. So that kind of hurt because I lost that. And all it takes is 6 weeks for that kind of thing. When you're 3, it's a long time. He almost like forgot that I would do that with him. So my wife did everything. And I have like a really weird, I went to school a lot. So I went to college, graduated, kind of fluffed around. Went back to college, got an MBA. While I was getting my MBA, I got stage 1 cancer. Got a job.
Is that the same? What are we talking? The same kind of
Same.
cancer?
Yeah, same. So
Okay.
I had cancer. Never quit school. I missed 1 class total. Kept going, even though I was nervous. Then I go back to school again in 2019. So I went to school again for another undergraduate degree in financial planning. So I could sit for the CFP exam, which I am a certified financial planner practitioner. So I was like 34 and these kids are like 20, 21.
That's odd.
So I was like the fun uncle or cool older brother maybe to these kids. And that's when I got cancer the second time. So I was in class, like bleeding through my stomach.
Yeah.
So I had surgery August 13th. What's the first day of class? August 25th.
Right.
Something like that.
And so I went to class like unable to walk, basically, like going like I had like a friend who I met the semester before, who was born the day Columbine happened. So what would that been? So he was 20 years old.
Yeah.
Because I said, when's your birthday? April 20th, 1999. So you know what happened on that day? He was like, I know. It's like my mom told me, Columbine. So I'm like going to school with a kid who was born the day Columbine happened.
I always wonder about that and like people that are born on 9/11 and like, I mean,
What do you do? What if you're born 9/11/01?
right.
I mean,
it's like, how do you celebrate? Like
it's weird.
It's tough.
It's really weird. So he helped me to and from class for the first few weeks and carried my books. Actually played on the Akron youth football team.
Oh,
Really nice guy. And his friend also helped me, who was another guy on the football team. So they helped me. So I never missed any class. I kept going because I'm like, I got to get a CFP. I got to get a CFP. So I stayed motivated career-wise this whole time. And then all of that really, and again, I'm so loquacious and I'm taking a lot of time. It probably seems scatterbrained. So we're speeding things up. 2019, I do no more treatment after my RPL&D. It's horrific. One bad thing is people won't know this. They gave me this pill because you can't take a dump during surgery.
Yeah.
And actually you can't for a week.
it's a lot why they don't want you to eat too.
It's why they don't. So he's like, we turned off your intestines.
Yeah.
So what does that actually mean? Can't go to the bathroom. You have absolutely no hunger.
Yeah.
0. And it lasted over a month.
Wow.
Way over, maybe 3 months. It was forever. I mean, I had no appetite. I didn't want to eat anything. And I thought to myself, damn, dude, this is the key to weight loss.
Right.
Give people a pill that make their intestines turn off. And now all those celebrities that are taking that type 2 diabetic medicine,
Yeah.
that it fools your intestines to thinking they're full. So I'm like, this is exactly what I was saying.
That's what Hydroxycut was originally when they made the first installment of it. So that's why they got in trouble for it, because it was shutting down your organs. And so they had to redo it.
So either way, that was, I'm sure people were already coming up. I'm like, I was like getting in Coda's face. I'd be so animated about it. I'm like, this is the key to weight loss. What are they doing? Why are they giving people fen? Like gastric bypass, like just shut down the intestines. And I mean, I was shut down.
Mhm.
I had no appetite.
Wild.
So whatever, I bounced back to normal. Let's see here.
So stage 1 was testicular. The second
Oh,
time around-
everything is testicular.
well, yeah,
cancer.
but the second time was what? It spread your
It
lymph
spread to
nodes.
my lymph nodes.
Okay,
in
gotcha.
around here.
Gotcha.
I often wonder, like, I mean, because of all the chemo and all that, you know, if
Right.
So
amplified it to go faster.
I'm sorry. I like think people like know this stuff, but they don't have cancer, so they're not researching it. Your cancer will always be classified by the original source.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter if the next time it goes to my brain and it's only in my brain, which is the most likely next place.
Because it originated in testicular.
Testicular cancer. It is called testicular cancer.
Gotcha.
And unless it morphs, it will be some pure seminoma. But morphs, that's a big deal. You could get teratoma, which again belongs to the non-seminoma family. You could get choriocarcinoma. You could get I don't know. I'm boring on this one. A lot of these are harder to treat. Teratoma cannot be treated by chemo. You have to remove it surgically.
Yeah.
And it can just keep popping up until you die from it. Luckily, I've never had a teratoma. I'm trying to think, what are the other? There's something called like Leydig cell. Very, very rare. Can't be treated. Every person I've met with it died. And like when I say this, where do I meet these people? Online. I go to online support groups, and it sucks. A lot of people have died. A lot of them have been younger than me. A lot of them have been dads, husbands. A lot of them have been 22 and just graduated from college, and they get Leydig cell and then they die. One thing that I think Lance Armstrong's case, I think, is just a miracle. Like the people I've personally met that had, they call it METs, you know, metastatic cancer in your brain, and have surgery to remove it. They're always a few fries short of a Happy Meal after that. Like cognitively speaking, most of them, to be frank, have died. If it gets to your brain, most of the people I've met have died.
Yeah.
Lance Armstrong's the only one I personally can think that I know by name that didn't die when it got to his brain. But and it sucks. I remember this one kid, his name was Alex. And it got to his brain. He was living in like Maryland, just starting out, like 22, 23. You know, loved by his family, his sister, his mom. People would write in the support group. His friends were all like getting active, and he got treatment. No evidence disease, treatment again because of something else. No evidence disease, gets to his brain. His Facebook post became like almost nonsensical, and then he died. And he was like a biology major. I think he maybe wanted to go to medical school, and I think he died at like 24. And I think he died in 2020, something like that. I mean, that sucks. There was another guy who died. He was born the exact same day as Sean Thomas, April 11th, 1985. Again, you keep getting cancer. There's only so many times they can throw stuff at it.
Yeah.
Then it becomes terminal. I remember when he said he had terminal, and he tried to live it up, but it was during COVID. So he couldn't. And I remember him bitching on Facebook, and dude, more power to him. I get it. I want to do this. I have 3 or less months to live. I can't even fucking go out of my house because of COVID. Yeah, that sucks.
Did you ever get it though? Like
me?
Yeah.
I never got COVID. Neither did Coda.
Okay.
I don't know. We're like immune or something. I mean, never got COVID, dude. I'm lucky.
Every one of my co-hosts, like
I
at
got
least
it, and
once.
it was awful.
Yeah.
It was fucking awful.
People who got it said, I mean, most people who got it said it sucks. Somehow, and the thing is, for Coda's job, she was getting tested all the time.
Yeah.
When I was in chemo, you too.
Yeah.
I was getting tested all the time.
Yeah.
I never got it.
Yeah.
Ashley never got it either. She was in the fucking house with me, sitting next to me on the couch,
Dude,
tending to me, and never.
Speaking of, like, you know, doctors that don't know, we are at the precipice. And 35 years and 40 years from now, we're going to know more things about why people didn't get it and did.
Oh, yeah.
But right now, we don't know anything because it's
understand
too No.
My picks, my prediction, and it sounds stupid, has always been vitamin D. That is always the key to this.
There have been people who said stuff like
You
that.
would, well, I'm going to debunk that. Well, if you mean vitamin D just in general, because Ashley has a vitamin D deficiency, like to the point where she goes and gets vitamin D like blasted into her, and she didn't fucking get it.
I don't know. I guess to mine, like that's what I take every morning. To me, like I always take a couple of pills of vitamin D, and to me, I think it's
a great thing.
Yeah, I've done study on it. Like it creates a lot of red blood cells that help fight that kind of thing. I don't want to take away from Danny's story.
No,
though,
dude.
but,
I actually would. I can't wait till we find out why did I not get COVID?
Yeah,
I went through chemotherapy.
Something
which
in your
absolutely
body
destroys.
and you're as weak as like it can be.
I got. I was sick basically all of last year.
Yeah.
Like 300 days of 365 days of 2022. But I had strep throat 4 times. Jesus. I was I got every sickness, the flu, everything. I was picking everything up because you're even for a year up until recently, and technically I'm still considered vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because we'll get into my chemo. We haven't even got into that yet. There's nothing that I've ever personally experienced in terms of sickness as bad as strep throat while you're getting chemo treatment.
Fuck.
You can't swallow. It's like strep throat times 1,000.
Yeah.
And it is like you're being stabbed at all seconds. And I can remember being like, I have an option to swallow my spit or drool.
Bro,
it hurt so bad.
No joke. When I had COVID, I had such terrible pain that I had a spit cup.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like because it was painful. I physically could not swallow.
Yeah.
And the pain was so awful that I just kept a cup that I would just drool into.
Yeah.
Because
easier than just
I could not. I mean, the pain of my throat was so awful. I thought I had strep. I went to the doctor because I thought I had strep, and that's when they told me I had COVID. But I mean, the pain was so terrible from that. But I got 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
I had one too.
Going back to what you're talking about, they're 2 separate questions. I mean, they don't relate to each other, but what you were talking about kind of just made me think of it. First off, the support thing. So when Ashley was going through her treatment, she initially started doing like support groups, and like she became close friends with someone who was going through, breast cancer with her and stuff. And it's probably different based on personality, but for her, I kind of relayed to her like, I don't think this is helpful for you.
Yeah. So you got to watch that.
Yeah, because
there's going to be people sicker than you, and you're going to think you're going to die when you're not.
Yeah. It was that. And like, I mean, you've known Ashley, but like her personality type is like, she gets very anxious and like a lot of anxiety and stuff. And I'm like,
me too.
I get those groups, like what they're there for, but like for her, I'm like, all you're doing now is rather than like moving on is you're just in these groups dwelling every day.
I agree.
And like, you're continuing to talk about it. But like, my question to you is like, for you personally, did you find those to be helpful to you?
Only during treatment.
Okay.
I have moved on from those groups, except a Facebook group, which I just actively follow and respond to people.
For sure.
But I used to go to an online Teams meeting or something, like, or Zoom or something. And it conflicts with judo. And dude, when I was like,
that's not happening.
Yeah. When I was laying in my bed with a pulmonary embolism, and if I moved, it could kill me. And I'm laying there as still as possible. I just was like dreaming. I'm like, please God, if you let me live this last time, like, I'll be good. And I remember thinking, the Arnold was going on, and I was looking on Facebook at all these healthy young people who just competed. And I said, if you let me live, I will compete next year. And so I did. I won the 88 kilogram sambo, sport sambo in March, just, 5 weeks ago. And I told the guy who was like, I saw your picture, and I was like, I'm going to be like, 15 years younger than me. I was like, you were young and healthy, and I needed that to like inspire me to get healthy. So as soon as I got healthy enough to walk after chemo, by the way, it like kills your legs. You really can't walk. I was like, I'm doing judo like instantly. And I just went right back into it, even though I was not cleared medically until October. I just ignored my doctor. So I found it necessary while in treatment. I would not skip judo for it. I guess that tells you
Yeah.
how important I find it to be.
Yeah.
And also, it will bring you down.
Yeah, that was the thing I was with her was concerned. Is it
You gotta
felt
move
like
on, dude.
yeah.
Gotta move on.
I commend people that are there though, because I mean you do need that support system. I mean, I feel like you do need to be able to. Some people need to have that and need to have someone to reach out to.
Maybe they need you because you're on the other side now.
Right,
You know?
exactly. And that's where it kind of got to a point with her is that she was out of it. But the person she really connected to was like going through it, and she was like a very downer. And I was like, this is bad.
It's gonna
for
drag
you.
her down.
It was dragging her in.
On.
She
Yeah,
ended
it's
up
tough.
moving on, and I was like, that's what you need. And
You gotta move on. You gotta find a new pastime.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
Your pastime can't be cancer.
Agreed.
And there now, when you're going through treatment or you're picking, by the way, every time I've had cancer, they let me pick my treatment.
Yeah.
They gave me the options. You have these 3 options.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? And where do you want to do it?
Yeah.
So if you're researching it, cancer can be your life. If you're going through treatment, cancer can be your life.
Yeah.
This is just my opinion.
Yeah.
When you are done with cancer, you need to soldier on. I think about stuff like, random people like Coach Yost, who was my football coach and health teacher at Elliott. Chris, did you have him in class?
I didn't have it in class, but I do know Joe very well.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
He
Coach
ran him
Yost.
the halls and all that. Yeah.
A good guy, maybe we had some disagreements or whatever, but he would say, and I think about this going through treatment, he'd say, put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
You got to put that shit
Yeah.
on the shelf and move on. You got to soldier on. You can't let cancer define who you are.
Yeah.
Even though I had cancer for literally 7.5 years,
Mm-hmm.
I would rather be known for the other things in my life.
Yep. You don't want that to be your story.
I don't want, cancer.
I get that.
Almost prophetic words from the other side, like from a guy that's lived through this, and now he's passing those words to you, and they don't have a profound meaning to you until later on.
Yeah, I would tell everybody, dude, move. Now, if you're terminal,
yeah,
and that's another thing is there's a lot of people terminal. So the worst cases meet each other.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Gilligan and I would talk about this, and unfortunately, I'm a very rare case. Because I kept getting it. Dr. Gilligan in June of 2021, he estimated I had a less than 2% chance of another recurrence.
Damn.
And then obviously that's not the case. So when I say my story, I'm almost nervous to tell another person who just got diagnosed.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to feel like I'm saying you will have stage 2 and stage 3.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, my cancer doesn't have a stage 4. It's stage 3 in terminal.
Yeah. That was my other question for you. So like and you brought this up earlier, is like, no matter like the mammogram thing, if you get a mammogram, it doesn't matter. If you have the cancer is going to kill you, you're going to have it regardless. It's not going to change anything. And this is an understanding I don't necessarily think I understand clearly. So I know there's different stages. I know there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think there's something below.
And there's ABCs and S and I or something.
My question is my impression was always that the stage was based on like how long you've had it and it's gotten worse, and so I didn't realize that.
Have it. It is
what's the
so like stage 3 means it's distant.
Okay.
So you have regional. Oh, you have
so it's like spread,
like localized.
Yeah.
Which is only in the breast, only in the testicle, only in the lungs.
Got it.
Regional, which is like the lymph nodes near your breast or lungs.
Yeah.
Or testicle.
Yeah.
Then there's distant. And the rule of thumb is if it's in a distant location that we know of, which mine, the 3rd time metastasized in my psoas muscle, where it connects to my spinal cord. And that's it's a very common place for it to metastasize to your spine. It is not a common place to metastasize to your psoas muscle.
Yeah.
Very rare. And in fact, if you Google testicular cancer, seminoma, psoas muscle, you'll find these long-term studies, and there was 2 over a 35-year period. So I had a very distant location. It's actually not that far from your testicle,
right?
But in terms of the fluid, the flow of the way your body moves, it's a distant location.
Yeah.
It was kind of like lining against, if you touch the muscle in your back.
Yeah.
So the rule of thumb is if it's in a distant location, that's stage 3. It's in a different distant location that we don't know of. Could be your brain.
Yeah.
Could have moved down. Something's gone wrong with your.
So they're finding it, but they can't locate it.
They locate it, but they think that there's a 2nd and 3rd and 4th spot.
Okay.
So they treat it as if there's a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th spot, even though we only know of 1.
So like, I guess my thing is like trying to think about it sensibly. if it's in a distant location, if it's in like, okay, it started in your testicles, but
so like even the brain
Yeah.
isn't distant. It is okay, but they know it goes to the brain. It does not
Interesting.
go to the psoas muscle.
got it.
Something went wrong with the flowing of my body.
Yeah.
And the hypothesis is when I was 2, I had what's it called when you like they think you have a hernia.
A hernia.
A hernia. When I was 2, I had a hernia and they had a surgery, which I have a friend who has my exact cancer.
Mm.
Now he only got to stage 2, but he did orchiectomy, RPL&D. He's a radiologist down in South Carolina, and he did 3 BEP like me. We both had hernias, and his hypothesis that he's read online through his research, and I kind of believe him. I read it too, but I would rather trust him. Like he's an actual medical doctor.
Yeah.
What he thinks, and he went over this with Dr. Carey at IUPUI or Indiana University, that hernia surgery changed the lymphatic flowing of our bodies in that area. In the area we happen to also get cancer in. For me, 28 years later, and for him, 10 years later or something. It has happened in college. And that's why both of our cancers ended up the 3rd time in funky places.
Weird.
And specifically, mine ended up in a place that got it designated as stage 3. And again, the rule of thumb is if it's distant where we know, it's distant where we don't know. So they treat the entire body.
God, it's so interesting to me. Like just like you hear people that like they find out they have cancer and they have stage 4. Like that's their first hearing of it.
I know, yeah, that sucks.
And it's like you would think
They didn't catch on.
that my thing is like you would think like if they knew symptoms earlier, then maybe they could have prevented that.
So
from
like
getting to
I
that
agree,
point,
but like also like going over this with my oncologist. So I've spent like a lot of time, like an hour just talking to him, like BSing and being like, and I basically am trying to like deduce what he thinks my chances of dying or not.
Right.
And I can catch him slipping sometime, but again, he's super smart. His parents taught at his mom was a psychologist, so that's one reason why he's kind of became close with his hey, remind me of my mom. She was a psychologist. She taught at Harvard. His dad, psychiatrist, taught at Harvard. Bring it back to movies, Chris. His dad, now he does not know I know this, but he's not going to hear this. His dad was the consultant for the movie Shutter Island.
Get out of here.
Yes,
Wow.
his dad was the consultant for that movie.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and he does not know that I know that. I found this through Googling. We've never talked about it. In fact, he doesn't bring up that his parents worked at Harvard, but like he'll say something like, I already know. He'll be like, well, I did grow up in Boston as a Celtics fan. I'm like, yeah, because your parents went to Harvard. But he like doesn't, he like hides it. He does not open up about his personal life.
Yeah.
But I've known him since 2017. So I like peek in a little bit. Like when I got the blood clot, he was like, you have a blood clot. I guarantee it. We'll figure it out. We'll not go to this. And I was like Chris Bosh. And I figured he'd be like, who's Chris Bosh?
Right.
He was like, no, not like Chris Bosh. And let me tell you the difference. And then he's like talking about Len Bias, because he was a Celtics fan. He started talking about all these like Celtics players.
Wow.
He's like, I grew up in Boston in the 80s. He's like, I know basketball. And he's like, yeah, Larry Bird. I mean, Robert Parrish. He starts bringing up these guys like from the 80s. And he's like Chris Bosh, because I was like, I'm never gonna get to do judo again.
Yeah.
Chris Bosh couldn't even play basketball. No, Chris Bosh has a medical condition that causes him to get blood clots. You have chemotherapy and a port, both of which greatly increase pulmonary embolism. And I suspect within 6 months, you'll be allowed to go back to all physical activity. And again, that was October. I broke it in May, started judo, and I was just like, if I die, I die. I mean, I'm dead serious. Telling my wife, I'm like, if I die, I die. I was on medication. I shouldn't have been doing this. And the cardiologist, because if chemo fucks up your heart, was like, oh, you realize that if you land on your head, you could bleed out and die. I was like, I am fully aware of this. I'm not stupid. I can't live my life this way.
Yeah.
I need to go exercise specifically. And people will be like, oh, if you need to exercise, why don't you just jog? I need to throw somebody and be thrown, choke somebody and be choked.
Your back's against the wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to hold on to that life, any semblance of an identity of
I have
that
to be
life,
myself.
you have to risk it. Yeah.
I know. I knew it was risk it. And
Yeah.
so whatever. So to go off some of what you said, like it isn't the length time you had it, but most
Gotcha.
likely if it metastasized in another spot,
Yeah.
well, just think about it. It's obviously not localized anymore.
Right.
Let's think about like a full, I forget what they call it when they remove your breast.
Augmentate or
Oh, mastectomy.
What?
Mastectomy. Mastectomy.
Okay.
yeah, because hysterectomy is
Yeah.
So they do that because they do the lumpectomy, which is just they move that little part
Mhm.
that had cancer. So let's say like, well, if they removed your breast, it can't be stage 1 still, right?
Right.
Because the breast is gone. So that means it had to move to the next spot.
Right.
So it is time, but it's more like time with moving.
Understood. That makes sense.
And for stage 3, so I dropped from like 95% 5-year success rate, which again doesn't mean shit to me now that I'm into it, because I'm like, I made it 5 years, and after 5 years, we're still diagnosed with stage 3.
Mhm.
Going from 95% to 70% 5 years between the stages.
Oh.
So that means, and I found out Christmas Day, 2021, Christmas Day, not the day before, not Christmas season,
Mhm.
not the day after, on Christmas Day around 6:15 p.m. I get an alert on my phone that tells me I have stage 3 cancer from an email. So not from a doctor, like an automatic auto-generated email.
Yeah. Bring Santa's ass back here.
So yeah, I know. And I'm watching Family Matters with my kids. We were watching the Urkel Christmas. So we call it Urkel at our house. I'm sure a lot of people do. We were watching Urkel Christmas, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm telling Coda, and she's like, no.
I just rewatched all of that last year.
Okay, they're great.
Yeah.
That was the first time my kids ever watched Urkel that day.
Yeah.
So I found on Christmas Day, and that was hard. It was hard. And again, I knew the numbers. I know that the difference between stage 2 and stage 3 is a giant, dramatic drop. Just surviving.
Yeah.
And now I think I have good odds, because like they destroyed what was known of my tumor. It didn't shrink. It literally is obliviated. They can't even see it anymore. They just see a shadow of it. I mean, I don't know. I don't like to play the numbers game because they've been wrong so much. But
how often do you go back to keep checking on that?
I was just there. I was supposed to go on my birthday, but I had the flu.
Oh.
So I went, what was that, like March 2nd? Oh, no, the same week. So my birthday's February 27th. So that was a Monday. So I went like Wednesday. What day is that? March 1st. So right now, I mean, I was up until then in a protocol of every 4 months. But he put me on a 3-month after this. So 3-month blood work, 6-month scan. Because I've had so much radiation.
Yeah.
I've had like a bazillion.
So it's better to keep you more on the scope because of that. Like they want to keep a closer eye on you.
I'm gonna die from the radiation, dude.
Okay.
Like I am to the fact that I am not gonna live to like 90. Chemotherapy destroys your cardiovascular system. It destroys your heart. People die of heart attacks, and it doesn't matter what you eat or how fit you stay. Eventually, that's going to be the thing that clips me if it's not cancer. Okay, like I kind of like get pissed because I'll be like saving money in my 401k, and I'm like, I'm just gonna fucking die, and then my wife's next husband's gonna get all this money, and like
that's like the alternate ending of Ghost.
I mean, I fucking hate it.
Awful.
I like legitimately told this girl at my work, I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make my wife the beneficiary, which you legally have to, by the way, in your 401k. She would have to sign to not be. And I was like, here's what I want you to do. Cause I work at a financial planning firm. So our firm, she's one of the advisors on the K plan. I said to her, when I die, if my wife starts dating, fucking steal this money. You have my permission. I was like, just steal it. I was like, I don't care if you give it to your husband. I just don't want her to get it.
That's so
if that's the case. Because I have this like giant fear.
Yeah.
I do the math.
Yeah.
At age 67, I should have $3 million saved.
Wow.
According to what I do with the projected growth rate. I have this fear that I'm going to like die at 67 with like $3 million. And my wife will be 64. She'll get remarried. And I love Coda, but she it's not like she says, I won't, no, I don't trust that this won't happen. I really don't.
Yeah.
I think what she'll do is most people, I've had clients that do this. They, their new spouse is now the beneficiary of their assets.
Mhm.
So let's say me and you were married, Chris and I were married for 40 years. We saved together. In my mind, if we're married, our money's the same. So if I save $3 million, it's yours too.
Deal. Let's do it today.
Yeah. So let's think about this. I die, money goes to you. I'm cool with that. But then you marry Ryan.
Mhm.
You die 2 years later. Ryan gets $3 million because you are a knucklehead. And instead of making our joint children the beneficiary, oh, I love him, he'll take care of our kids.
Mhm.
You make Ryan the beneficiary. Ryan gets $3 million when doesn't give shit to my kids. And when Ryan dies, his kids get the money.
Oh God.
And that's
He gets a bigger boat.
And I have seen that.
You can't make your kids the beneficiary.
It doesn't matter. It goes, oh no, my wife would have to sign off on that. Right now they're kids. So she would still be in charge because she'd be a custodian.
Yeah.
So you need to like legally, there's like a form where the wife, spouse, like didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this now in an IRA in the great state of Ohio, you can disclaim your spouse. A lot of states you can't do that. In Ohio, you can. So if I don't want to disclaim Coda.
Yeah.
The problem is I don't want to die at an age
You're
she's young enough to get remarried.
I get it.
And I just think that like she'll just be like, well, my husband's the beneficiary of my assets. Like, especially if you die and she's 64 and she's married to another guy for 25 years. Like, she's gonna like be A, using my money to be feeding him, which I hate. But B, like
That guy.
fuck that guy, dude. I hope everybody in his fucking family dies. Fuck that guy.
I fucking love it.
But like, listen, like it's not just the fact that I'm gonna be pissed about
I
that.
get it.
It's the fact that when she dies, he gets the money, and he dies, his kids get the money.
Your
I
family gets
saved
fucked.
money. Enzo and Esme don't get shit.
Yeah. I get that.
You know
It's
what I
a very
mean?
real thing though. Like
That's
to
a very.
worry about that.
I've had this conversation with her 100 times.
Yeah.
I've told her mom to like convince her of this, and she keeps saying like, "I get it, I get it." I don't think she gets it. I really don't. I really don't think she gets it still.
Yeah.
It's
hard to think about that, you know,
because
like, you
people
don't
are always
wanna-
just like, "Oh, you're my spouse, you're my beneficiary," but not if our assets were made with someone else. That's my opinion.
Yeah. No. I
And
don't think
I
there's
will-
anything wrong with that.
Money should go bloodline and bloodline only.
Yeah. You want
dude.
what's best for your family.
Yeah, it should not. It should be illegal for it to go my money to her name, to him, to his kids.
Mhm.
That's fucked up. But the thing
Yeah.
is, there's no way to track that. You know,
Yeah.
like I said, dude, I told her name's Amber. I said, Amber, I swear to God, steal this.
Mhm.
You know how to do it. I was like, and Coda,
I love it.
she won't notice. I'm dead serious, dude. She might not notice. She's never been financially insecure in her whole life. She didn't grow up financially insecure.
Yeah.
So like money comes and goes and she might not notice. I'm like, just take it. I would be like, just tell her the stock market crashed. She might believe you. I was like, cash it out and give it to Alan. Her husband's name's Alan. I was like, cash it out and give it to Alan.
Do the right thing, Coda. Give it to your kids.
Yeah, I mean,
Give it to your kids.
do something. Honestly, I always tell her, don't get remarried. You know, she's like, yeah. She's like, well, it wouldn't be fair if you died at 40. And I'm like, fuck, that's not the answer I want to hear.
Come on.
Uh,
Good Lord.
But you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Right now, it's like I said. I mean, it's project. That's 29 years from now.
Right.
So I don't have anywhere near that kind of money right now.
Right.
Not even close. But my point is like if I go off, that's my big fear.
Yeah.
And why should my life be about money? But unfortunately, we live in a very like monetary driven society. So I do think that way.
But it's also like we work hard to give to our family. You
Exactly.
know? And like you have kids, so it's on a completely different tier.
Yeah, it's for my kids, dude. My money's for my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
And to a lesser extent, charity. If I could give to charity, if I had a choice, you know, I'd rather go to charity.
That asshole.
Not that asshole.
Yeah.
Especially not his fucking baby dick kids. But
I love it.
that's just the way it is, you know?
I have a question I'm gonna squeeze in. So like Ryan brought up the thing with the like the stage 4 and then the misconception about that. I had the same misconception too. I was kind of on his side with that in terms of I thought it meant, you know, the timing of it. What would you say is another big misconception that the culture has about cancer in general?
Dude, thinness. People think you're in chemo, you lose weight. Fucking, I gained 50 pounds between
Get bloated.
stage 2.
It's like chemo bloat, right?
Oh shit, it's so bad.
Yeah.
I have almost no pictures of me in almost any of my stage. I was quite frankly embarrassed. Like I said, dude, like I'd like to try and project an image of like being cool, like the Fonz or something. And you know, which is hard for me to see Henry Winkler now. He's like an old nerd.
I met him. Yeah.
You met him?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, he's still cool, but you get my point. So like, I did not want, I probably have 5 or 6 pictures of stage 3 and no pictures of stage 2, except that picture of my stomach, because I thought I'd like to remember that. Like pictures of me using a walker, I don't have.
Yeah. That's like
So,
a
like,
hard thing to want to look back on, though.
I did not, but you know, a lot of people do. A lot of people dwell on that shit. A lot of people want a motivational TikTok video later. I did not. I mean, I kind of wish I did have some of these photos so I could document it, but I didn't document it.
I've known you as a positive person though, too, like
mostly
your whole life, and you've always been a word that I would summarize as driven too.
Yeah.
So like to you, like you're not going to dwell in something like that.
No, I wanted to keep going. I wanted to chip away. So what, dude, weight loss, dude. I did not. Most of my friends, now my friend who was a doctor did lose weight. In a way, I was a little jealous, but I gained weight. I mean, I remember on a Monday and a Thursday gaining 20 pounds in between, because they weigh you every day.
Yeah.
Because if you change within 5% of your body weight, they have to change your chemo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they weigh you every day.
Yeah.
And there was like, and I remember being like 5% up one day and like 8% down from that the next day.
That's not good.
So it's like because your kidneys are getting shut down.
Yeah. Fast.
So you're retaining water like crazy. You might not pee for like 2 days, and then you like literally piss every second for like 27 straight hours all night, everything. Same thing with when I had stage 2, they put the catheter in my penis or whatever, and I still remember when they were like,
fuck that,
like slipping it out, and I mean it was long as hell. And you can like hear them like doing the slip slide of the inside of your dick.
That's, I hope I never have any
with like a rubber problems. And I couldn't feel. So the reason they put that in there is I couldn't feel my dick.
Yeah.
And so I would just be pissing all day because I held water for several days.
Yeah.
And then I just pissed like continuously. Yeah. So that would definitely, I would say the weight. Now I'm sure there's some cancers out there. Your tongue feels like metal. That does prevent you from eating. But if you're taking 35 pounds of water, because you know that when you're getting chemo, they grease your kidneys with water, saline or whatever. So I was taking 4 liters a day and not going to the rest. Now in the very beginning, you're going pee like every 10 seconds. And dude, so you get a port, and it was like right here. I have like a little scar. I don't know if you can tell. This is where I got my chemo. And this is where I got water, frankly. And so like you're connected to this machine and you have to get up and go pee like 45 times in 8 hours. It's really annoying. And by the end, you get up maybe once or twice by the end of chemo. And I mean, not like the end of the day, but like the end of treatment of your treatment. Yeah. Because your kidneys just don't work anymore. So like, it sucks. It sucks. So you're retaining water. Yeah. And frankly, one of the reasons I gained weight between 2 and 3 is like I was a minor bit depressed because I was like, doesn't matter if you eat healthy, doesn't matter if you exercise, just gonna get fucking cancer. You're just gonna die. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. So that was another reason. And then so I was doing judo again in 2021, and I broke my toe like wide open, had to go to the ER in a tournament. And that was probably when I thought, okay, I have stage 3 because they tested my lungs and it was really bad that time. And then my doctor was like, don't freak out. We'll test you. You're due for 2 months anyways. And that was when they officially told me at Christmas, because that was October and then 2 months later.
Another question. And this kind of goes to your comment about keeping it quiet. So, or wanting to keep it quiet.
Yeah, tried.
2 parts. One, what was to keep something like that quiet? I mean, because some people want to seek, I don't want to say seek attention or like sympathy,
validation.
Yeah. So like a lot of people would want to talk about it because just for reassurance or to know people care. What was your support system like getting you through that, especially in a sense of isolation where you're not talking about it?
Question.
Coda. I'm lucky to have met a teenager who happened to grow up and be a psychologist. Yeah. Dr. Coda Derrig or whatever you want to call her. So I was very lucky in that sense. So basically she was my support system. And a lot of times I didn't tell things to people. I would tell things to like my friend Erwin or Steve. I talk a lot to Steve.
Steve's a good dude. Yeah.
Yeah. I could always talk to Steve. You know, my parents to a lesser extent, but I didn't want to, so like, I don't know that they're not going to listen to this. So like when you're at stage 2 and I had the retroperitoneal lymph node dissection, the lymph nodes they're dissecting or by the nerves like control your dick and your ejaculation muscles.
Yeah.
And there's a chance that you're gonna like never ejaculate again the rest of your life. And you go into the surgery knowing that. And I'm like, that's not something I can talk to my mom about.
Right.
And so basically until it was over, only Coda knew that.
Yeah.
And I can remember like, you know, there where I talk about sex, I talked about masturbation with Dr. Klein, and again, he's very clinical. And he was like, I don't see why you would need to do that for put any strain on your abdominal muscles for at least 4 to 6 weeks. You know, that's a clinical way of saying don't beat off.
Right. But if I did it sooner, did you not hear what I said? 4 to 6 weeks.
Well,
God
so
damn it.
Here's what I did.
That's a build-up.
On Monday, I got the catheter out. I went home on Tuesday and I couldn't wait to beat off. And frankly, I was like, this is going to hurt. I need to see if I ejaculate.
Yeah.
I really needed to, I was like nervous.
And that's scary. Yeah.
Yeah. I beat off.
Yeah.
Not knowing whether
what was going to happen.
Yeah. And so some of the guys I know who have this say like, oh, it's great because you never have to like come in your girlfriend or wife anymore. And you don't have to clean it up. You don't have to worry about getting anybody pregnant.
Yeah.
But I did not want that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if these guys actually thought that or if they lied to themselves. They're like, one guy was like, my wife prefers it. I don't think that's true. I'm sure she was lying to you. Sorry.
Well, because it's also a sign of satisfaction.
Yeah,
too,
I know.
so,
I mean, it is what it is, dude.
Yeah.
So I was extremely nervous and I beat off. Mind you, is in extreme pain, and I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna nut. And I'm like, please God, have something come out.
Yeah.
And it like dribbled out.
Yeah.
But now it's like normal. So about a month, it was like each time was better and better and better.
Yeah.
And I remember Dr. Klein was like, ejaculating? And I'm like, oh, excuse me?
Yes, sir.
And he was like, have you had ejaculations? And I was like, yep. He's like, good. He's like, I spared your nerves. And I was like, because that was the thing. It's called nerve sparing. I had open retroperitoneal lymph node dissection with nerve sparing procedure.
Okay.
They used to say, fuck your nerves.
Yeah.
You're slicing right through those bastards. And you're just.
It is what it is.
I mean, they're messing. And he's like, don't worry. You can get a boner. Or whatever he said, you can put an erection, but like whatever. So I was really scared about that. Maybe I shouldn't have been.
No, I know it's not cancer, but I mean, I had a vasectomy and I was very concerned of the same thing. Like I went in that not knowing, and I had to wait like 4 to 6 weeks to do it. And I'm like, fuck, I can't wait this long not knowing what's going to happen. And it was awful. I mean, to not know.
They just gave me stuff like that. Like when I had the orchiectomy, don't masturbate for, I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
That was Friday. Sunday, I
like, fuck it.
Yeah, that's murder.
Dude, I was like, fuck these people.
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I always like immediately.
I'll give you an hour. I mean, I might be able to push it at 2.
So, and Coda would always be like, you heard the doctor. And I'm like,
fuck that guy.
Like, okay, I'm doing it. I don't care. I got to see if this works. You know, when you have one testicle, you gotta see if it works.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, when you're going through chemo, which we really haven't touched enough on yet, you don't even like get boners. Like that's like legitimately, I was like as horny as I was as like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Like you don't think about sex, mostly.
Yeah.
You don't wake up with an erection.
Yeah.
I never was like, wait, and I was like, oh my God, Coda, I'm worried my like dick won't work after this.
Yeah.
Like I'm not getting boner. You know, wake up in the middle of the night, I don't have a boner. Like my brain can't think about sex.
Yeah.
And obviously none of that. So to go back, does my bird still work? Yes, my bird won't quit.
There you go, Steve.
Bird is the
so-
word.
It does still work, but a lot of the things they've done have been like lowered the chance of like it might not work after this, but you'll die if you don't.
Yeah.
Right.
So like and I'll tell you, like I was legitimately scared. That was the only time. Oh, I was scared in stage 2 because of the ejaculation, and I was scared because I wasn't getting erections during
treatment.
BEP. Now eventually, if you would go, so BEP is 5 days on, 3 days off, 1 day on, 6 days off. Okay. So on that like fifth, sixth day, I'd be like, I got a boner. But on like, day 3 or whatever, I'm like, your dick is dead.
Yeah.
Your brain, everything feels like a movie.
Yeah.
What
Like,
do you mean?
like things are moving at you at a different pace. Your brain is so foggy.
Yeah.
You're like moving through slowly. You're like disembodied. You're watching somebody else's movie.
The beginning of Limitless.
Dude, you know what it reminds me of? Being John Malkovich.
Yeah.
And like a little bit, you're just like there, but you're not. And people will be like, hey, Danny, you want some cake? And you're like, I don't know. Like, you really.
You're on autopilot.
Dude, I slept. I would just, I had no schedule. I wasn't working.
Right.
You cannot work in BEP. It is it is a young man's cancer treatment.
Yeah.
Young, they won't, if you are 40, they will not give you BEP.
Wow.
And so what was I? 37,
Yeah.
36, and I started 37 when I ended. I was getting close.
Yeah,
to
you're
not
knocking on the
being
door.
eligible for BEP,
Yeah.
which means that I had to either use VIP, TIP, most likely would have done 4 EP, which is apostaside, a top aside, and cisplatinum, without the bleomycin, which lowers your success rate. So I was very lucky to be able to do the BEP, the bleomycin section.
Yeah.
And I still have a lot. I still have more. You guys can ask me questions. I realize I've talked without you.
I have a couple.
No,
more, too.
you're good. But so I have a follow-up to that, to the support one. So your wife was obviously there. I mean, you have,
she did everything.
Your caregivers basically, that take care of you. So
and the kids' parents.
Yeah, and
parents.
I went through that with Ashley, obviously. But one of the things that we kind of realized, and I'm curious your point of view on this, and this is I don't want this to come off like selfish or like I'm an asshole, but we've had friends like in your situation who went through cancer, and as a couple tried our best to be extremely supportive. I mean, doing fucking food drives and
give them food and shit like that.
All that. Do
Which
whatever.
helps. I'm telling you, giving somebody food who can't make food is a big deal.
So we sadly, unfortunately, we've had several friends that have gone through these situations, and we try to be that person that was there when we went through treatment. Or when Ashley went through hers, with the exception to, like, I'm talking our very close knit, like a Chris or a Dan, we felt kind of slated. Like,
I know
no one offered help, monetary, food, support. I mean, I'm talking, we donated thousands of dollars to people.
Yeah. So
and we felt like we didn't have a support system. And I'm like, what to you, like, what is the right support system? I didn't go through it. I mean, me personally, as the diagnosis, but like, if you're talking to, as a survivor, or as someone that's going through it, talking to an audience that's listening to this, and you want to be supportive, people don't want to hear like, oh man, you're strong, you're gonna get through this. That you can only hear that so many fucking times.
That's kind of
discouraging.
I personally don't think.
So what, coming from someone that's currently still going through this, what can you offer or tell friends or family? What is true support? Like, what do you want? What would you have wanted that you didn't get? What is support to you?
Okay. So, somebody like my parents and Coda's parents, specifically her mom and my mom and dad, but, like offering to help with our kids. Because Coda's job is me and the kids. And I mean, she's taking care of me. She's vegan, so she doesn't cook meat. She had to cook me meat. And she's like, I don't even know how to do this. Her calling my mom and being like, how do I know this is done versus not done? And she would just like plop the food down by the bed. And eventually maybe at 3 a.m. I ate something.
Yeah.
So I think like food is a big thing, because if you can't, like, I couldn't get up and cook. I think dropping food off, but with the acknowledgement that you're not going to be able to stay and BS with them because they might be sick. Okay. And I hated being on when I had chemo.
Yeah.
What do I mean by being on? Like, this is me. I'm being on. I'm active.
Right.
Wake me up at 3 a.m. It's really hard for me to be on. Well, catch me in, day 7 of chemo and I'm not on. So if I had a guest stop by, I'm like,
You don't want to
having to
entertain.
pretend to entertain them.
Yeah.
Same thing in chemotherapy. You would bring a guest at the Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into my original treatment at Akron, then moving, transitioning to Cleveland. You bring a guest, and I can remember my mom would like talk to me, and she said she wasn't going to do this, but she did. And I'm just like thinking, like, I'd just rather
just sit here in silence.
Yeah, sit here in silence. Your brain doesn't work. You can't even watch TV.
Right.
So even though there's a TV there, I would just be like sitting there like this.
Yeah.
Okay. So I hated being on. I actually think that the presence is not that much support.
Yeah.
Unless your presence is silent.
Right. You're exhausted. I mean, you're really at the point where you don't want to talk. You don't want to do anything. Yeah.
So food.
Yeah.
I've been blessed enough where I have a good enough job and my wife has a good enough job to where we didn't need monetary assistance of any form. And so, I mean, like fund drives and stuff, if you need it, like that is like definitely something. Like, I feel bad. I always sometimes felt bad. I'd be like, some of these people in my group can't afford their cancer treatment, and I have no problem with it.
Right.
So that one is harder for me to relate to, and I feel bad about that, actually.
You shouldn't feel bad though, but
I don't know what to do.
But I mean, you can come from the perspective of like, had you not been,
then I would like, if you didn't have insurance, dude. Yeah. You got to get on you know what I would tell somebody to do is get your income down to 0 and get on Medicaid. And I don't care how long that takes. You know, they backdate it some of the time. Maybe they'll waive it 2 years from now, but you're kind of fucked.
Yeah. I mean, you, like you said, you were in a situation where both of you were financially pretty sound. Yeah. And I mean, for the most part, me and Ashley are pretty financially sound, but we went from a dual income house to a 1-income house. Yeah. She wasn't working.
I know.
So, I mean, I took on the responsibility of everything financial. Being the caregiver, that's stressful. And like you're talking about, she cooked. You're so mentally drained, even as the caregiver. Like that's hard to do.
Oh yeah,
you know, like
so. Like one thing is, I'd say lean on parents if you could. Like, I would say, like my mother-in-law. I take my kids to school. Well, I obviously couldn't do it. Yeah. My mother-in-law was taking them for like 3 months. Yeah, when I had chemo, and that really helped a lot. Yeah. Just coming to my house. And that sucks for her. She's missing she starts work at 7 a.m. Well, else we're starting work at 9 a.m. Yeah. So just being willing to change her schedule for me, it's huge. Meant a lot. Yeah.
Like yard work, like chores, if they're helping.
Dude, I wasn't doing none of that shit.
Yeah. That's what I say, like practical things.
Practical things. So like, I wish so. Like Erwin mowed my yard.
Yeah, that's
Erwin would come over and mow my yard for free. Yeah. We had our neighbor, especially during 22, we were getting a lot of snow. My neighbor plowed my yard so I could leave and get to treatment. Yep. And you miss one treatment, your statistical chance of success goes down. You miss 2, it drops a lot. Yeah. You miss 3, it drops. So I had a huge fear about getting to and from chemo. Yeah. Especially, we had almost no snow this year, but last year we had a lot of snow. I remember I got stuck in my driveway on Martin Luther King Day, which I was late 3 hours.
The Martin Luther King storm. Yeah,
yes, and I was completely stuck. I had to get my neighbor to pull me out so I could go to the doctor. So I was like, oh God, I'm gonna die. You know, like all these things like that. People need that. That's a great Chris, great point. It's like if it's summertime and you're in treatment, somebody needs to mow your yard.
Things that you got to think about, basically the things that you are responsible for on a day-to-day basis that you no longer can physically do. Fucking doing laundry, cooking, doing the dishes, cleaning your house, mowing your lawn. Like that's the stuff that is meaningful. Obviously monetary if you can help or if you need it. But like it's the day-to-day activities that people don't realize. Like you physically just can't do it. You can't do it. And it's like if no one's offering to help, it's not getting done. And now what? You're in treatment for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and none of this shit's being taken care of.
It's all on pause.
Dude, if you're single, I don't know what single people do. And there are a lot of guys like it's like Alex, or that guy that died. He was like 22. He was single.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like these people, or the guy born on Sean Thomas's birthday, he was single. His parents were like taking care of him. So like feel bad. They're like 35, moving in with their mom again. They lost their jobs. And they don't work, whatever. They have no money now. Oh, it sucks. It's really, I don't know, like your support system then has to become friends and your mom. And it's rough, dude. Like I know that I'm blessed. Coda, she's such a motivated person that when you give her more, although she might not want to do more, she's been able to handle as much as I've had to give on to her.
Yeah. That's being a partner, you know, like it's great that she was able to be there for you and willing to take that on. Some people will crack or break,
Or some people get divorced.
That's what I was about to exactly what to say. Like cancer is a very tiring thing on a relationship. It doesn't matter. Like me and Ashley have been together the same amount of time you guys have, like almost to the day. And cancer treatment like was huge on our relationship. It is very hard. Honestly, our relationship is like 300 times better now after, because it kind of puts you in a position where it's like you have to really rely on each other. We're both I'm extremely independent, and like I'm not a caregiver, and being forced into that situation allowed us to kind of tackle things that we weren't doing in our relationship, and it made a huge difference. Like you're very fortunate to have that, and not everyone does. What you might have the partner, but they not be willing to help or able to help. So that's great.
I think a partner shines the brightest during those moments, because it's like those are the times where you really feel your back is against the wall more than any time ever. And like in the case of Coda, and in the case of you to Ashley, it's like when you have that rock that's next to you, it's a lot easier to go through those things to where, it's nice that you said that somebody will, plow your driveway or, cut your grass and all that. But there's probably an internal disconnect where you can't do it yourself too at the same time.
Right.
So I like shoveling snow, honestly. Exercise.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. It's hard to.
This man over here is counting down till winter too.
I love winter. I actually do. I do. Coda said, "Oh, when we are old, we'll move to Georgia." I'm like, too hot.
Yeah.
She said this yesterday. I'm like, too hot.
That Facebook post, I was like, this man over here.
I would say, offer, don't wait to be asked, because I mean, especially someone like you, I can see where like asking for help is probably not something you like to do.
I always felt bad.
Yeah, so it's like you kind of have to be willing. If you've got a friend or family member going through it, like be willing to offer the help. Don't wait for them to ask. Yeah, exactly. Tell them like I'm gonna come over. Like
if you have a baby, like for example, like
I'll watch your
2019, like my daughter's still in diapers, like to offer.
Yeah.
Hey, you might not have time to go to the grocery store because Coda's watching you. You can't walk.
Yep.
Do you need me to get diapers?
Yeah.
Something simple like that.
Yeah.
Like, obviously my parents offering to watch my kids if needed. It's just but it's a stressful time. I think I really feel bad when I see people going through it alone. Some people in the group will be like, I don't have a good relationship with my parents.
Yeah, I can't.
And my mom is my rock. Yeah.
And they'll be like, and I'm single.
Yeah. What do you even do?
What do you do? And I've been like, this is my advice. If somebody's like, I have cancer, 27, I live in Seattle. My mom lives in New York, and I'm no girlfriend, no married. And I just moved here 2 years ago. So I don't really have any close friends.
I'd be moving to New York.
I say, be back in with your mom.
Yeah.
That's exactly,
100%.
I mean, that's my advice. And sometimes they'll be like, I might not get that sick. No, you're going to get sick.
Yeah.
Go move with your mom.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Before
dude. You lost your dream job, but you got cancer. Yeah. You can get your dream a second time. Yeah. You have to survive. I don't know that you'll survive. Like there are times when you're going through chemo where like you need to get to the hospital quick because you're sick in the middle of the night. You can die within hours from sepsis from getting an infection, which is like I gambled when I had strep throat because it was during COVID and I didn't want to go to the ER because I had a friend who waited 36 hours at the Cleveland Clinic ER with cancer treatment because of the idiots with COVID. And so I was like, I told my wife, like, fuck this. I'll die in my bed tonight. I broke that fever. I survived. And I was as wet as if I was in the shower. That's like how I broke that fever. The next day, I'm like, I'll go to the urgent care. So I went to urgent care in Green. And I'll tell you, when you have chemo, like nobody wants to treat you. No one wants to be the last person who saw you before you die. So like urgent care was like, you need to be in the ER. We can't treat you here. I was like, I have strep throat.
Yeah.
And then I did. And they treated me. And Dr. Gilligan wrote me an even stronger prescription, whatever. And when I was really sick and I went to the ER, they were like, you should have waited in the morning and gone to urgent care. And I just started feeling like nobody wants to be the last person who touches you and then you die 3 hours later. Yeah. So they don't want that responsibility. So urgent care didn't want me at urgent care. ER did not want me at the ER. She's like, don't you know that ERs where sick people are and you can't get sick? And I'm like, I think I'm dying.
Right.
It's 3 a.m. on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I literally called my parents and made them come watch my kids. I didn't take this lightly. You know, like it was 3 a.m.
Yeah.
on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm at the ER. I obviously think because Dr. Gilligan was like, never do that again. You're lucky you survived the night.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay, I can't walk. I'm falling over. I was like passing out. And so I was like, I need to go to the ER. And I did. And she like yelled at me, you know,
That's crazy to me. Like that's
like this.
you rely on these people and then like you have to fucking be treated like that. Like just fucking help me. Like obviously I know I'm fucking sick and I shouldn't be here, but I am for a reason.
Yeah, I know. I was like, do you think I want to be around with the flu and COVID? Like, and then she was like, just tell me all your symptoms. And then the doctor came and he's like, they both are like, you just have chemo sickness. But the thing is it's hard to tell chemo sickness versus other things. And I'll tell you, so like, let's go to that stage 3. It's Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I get diagnosed. I, take that in. I'm freaking out. I can't sleep. I've called my brother. I've called Steve Leckage, 11 o'clock at night. I called Irwin. I didn't tell my parents. I was going to tell my parents the next day. I called. You know that my wife's related to Adam DeFord, right? You know,
I didn't, but
and
now I
Adam,
do.
they're cousins.
Wow.
He's a Kelker. My mother-in-law is a Kelker. And let's bring it back into sports. Kelker, Kelly Kelker, is married to Bob Wolf. Bob Wolf is the COO of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So that's why I'm a Dodgers fan. So I was just at their house in Pasadena a couple months ago. Bob is so nice. He came to my cancer party. Kelly, they flew from Pasadena for my cancer party last year.
Wow.
And Ellery is currently a medical student at Harvard. So Coda comes from like, so, Adam DeFord's mom's a doctor. So that's my wife's aunt. And I've been known her, 18 years. We're very close.
Mhm.
At least I consider Cindy to be close to me. And so like she knew, and like, we're all like researching, what am I going to, I already knew because I'd been researching for years, but like Cindy's looking up, what should I be doing? And Coda's mom, and like I just couldn't sleep.
You've been through this already, and it's like like you're at your wits' end by this point.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm just so sick and tired.
I was really pissed. I was
What
really
what
pissed.
was 3? Like, what was the reasoning for 3? Like, I mean, what happened that they considered you 3? I don't know if we talked
because
about
it moved to my psoas muscle.
That was right.
moved
Okay,
to
cool.
a distant location.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So it moved again. I went from in June of 21, no evidence of disease, to December of 21 to not an enlarged lymph node, which would have made it still stage 2, an actual random tumor in a unique distant location, which is a very bad sign.
That's worse. That
means
worse,
it's shooting it's in your blood and it's shooting everywhere through your body. Everywhere is fair game. It could go to your calf, your brain, everywhere in your body is fair game at this point. All right. So that's why it was stage 3. So, that sucked. My Dr. Gilligan, again, he does not know this, then I know this about him, but he's Jewish. Well, what does that matter? Oh yeah, that Jew. No, not dropping a hard J. Jewish people are great people. Same as everyone else. However, what does that matter? It matters because they are not allowed to hold a cancer diagnosis like that for a long time. It's like 2-3 days. Well, it's 8 crazy nights or whatever. Him and Sandler are lighting the menorah together. So he's not at work. Because it's Hanukkah. So he's not at work. Nobody recaptures that message and relays it to me.
Jesus.
Because he's not at work. And also like, he's never like, keeps separation, but it will be like, I'll call you tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's Saturday. And he calls me the minute the sun goes down. You know what I mean? Like, Dr. Gilligan, I know you're Jewish. Like, just tell me the reason you can't call me till 8:12 on Saturday p.m. is because you can't touch the phone until 8:12 p.m. Like, I'll just say it, dude. He's like, we'll never. He'll be like, I can't call you until this time. And I'm like, I know what that means. I'm not an idiot.
I know
I
you're
work
Jewish.
in finance. I know a lot of Jewish people.
Yeah.
But whatever. So I got the alert on my phone, whatever. And so I really can't talk to him until he comes back to work. So no, by then it's like January 3rd or something, you know?
Yeah.
So he did call me though on December 27th, 28th, something like that. So whatever, I saw him January 3rd. And you know, Coda's always just like, well, what if we do nothing? She said that's like every time. And he's like, he'll die. Like, I'm like, Coda, why do you always ask that? And he's like, it's a valid question. I'm like, no, it's not. But he tells me we're gonna do 2 EP because this whole time, a good oncologist is going to be telling you this. Bad oncologists won't. And also when you have no other option, they're not going to. I know this because I've lived it.
Okay.
So chemo's bad. Chemo's bad. Chemo's bad. Let's avoid it. We have to do chemo. Oh, it's not that bad. I'm like, don't bullshit me. Don't piss on my head and try and tell me it's raining.
That's one of my favorite sayings.
You know?
Yep.
Like, I already know, dude. You told me it was bad for 6 years. And now you're telling me it's my only option. So he's like, but we're going to mitigate it. We're going to do surgery to remove it. Dr. Klein's retired. We're going to find somebody. We're going to do this surgery. He was like real positive. Frankly, I think because of his like friendship with Coda and because it keeps relapsing, he's like afraid. I really felt like he wanted to be hands off me. He did not want me to die and him feel any responsibility. Yeah. So he started like trying to like give me to other people. And I had to like have a coming to Jesus moment with him a couple times. Like, you're my oncologist. You're the only oncologist I've really ever had or trusted. Mr. Gromley was my wrestling coach at Higher. He used to say, if I give you the wrong advice and you believe in it, you're better off than I give you the right advice and you don't believe in it. So I'm like, I believe in you. I don't believe in Dr. Matt in Akron, who he's trying to refer me to. So, but I'll trust you on this surgery. So, and I could tell he's like nervous about this. He's like, we're going to do surgery and we're going to do 2 EP. We're not even messing with bleomycin. You're going to be fine. Then he calls me back 6 hours later. I talked to Dr. Einhorn and I talked to, I forget the guy's name, some guy, he's on this like cancer council where they like go to each other for difficult cases. And he did that for stage 2 and stage 3 for me because it was very rare. When I relapsed 4 years, which is rare, and I relapsed, this was a rare place. And they both said, you need 3 BEP. I'm sorry. No surgery. You could have surgery. It's useless. You need 3 BEP. There's just no way around it. So let's start the ball. And that sucked because I know what it meant to get bleomycin. I remember him telling me, yeah, I've lost patients just to bleomycin. What does that mean, lost patients? Bleomycin destroyed their lungs enough to where they died. He was like, don't worry. He says something like, I've never lost a patient to bleomycin. I'm like, you've told me before you've lost patients to bleomycin. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, when your back's against the wall and this is the only option, they don't tell you that cancer is going to kill you. They don't tell you chemo can kill you. They tell you chemo's bad, chemo's bad, chemo's bad. Let's avoid it unless we need it. Then when you need it, so the people that like got diagnosed at stage 3, they never went through the education that bleomycin's bad and chemo's bad and radiation's bad. They just do it. And like, I feel like a dick sometimes. I'll be like, just so you know, you're in a lifetime now monitoring of leukemia, lymphoma, and heart disease.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're on the clock for 20 to 30 years. And they'll be like, my oncologist never told me. I'm like, your oncologist didn't tell you because
it's the only option.
Your only option.
Yep. The last resort.
The last resort. And what would it have been useful to be like, in 30 years, you may get leukemia. Do you still want to do chemo?
Right.
Like, no. And so they're not going to educate you on that.
Yeah.
So I was lucky in the sense that I got that full education from him for years and every appointment. And then our backs against the wall. And we just do it. And we do it and it sucked. And so he referred me to Dr. Matt down in Akron. Did not get along with her.
That's where Ashley went.
At Akron? Who was her oncologist?
Dr. Matt.
Terrible person.
Wow.
Terrible
That's
person.
odd.
She's an actual terrible person. And she doesn't know shit about testicular cancer. And the problem is she's a generalist oncologist. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you murder Chris and you need a lawyer, are you going to go to a estate planning lawyer? Are you going to go to a murder defense lawyer? Okay. Dr. Matt is an estate planning lawyer who thinks she can defend a murderer because she went to law school and she did a fake trial when she was in law school. Okay. Dr. Matt should not be treating testicular cancer. And she lies and says stuff like, oh, I've done this dozens of times. That's not true. Okay. This is not a hotbed for testicular cancer. It's less than 1% of all cancers in the country. You probably see 1 or 2 people a year at most, sometimes 0. And her assistant was like, yeah, she's seen 2. And like, she was acting like it was dozens. And then when I confronted her, she was like lying and saying that. Dr. Gilligan and Dr. Einhorn said I should do, because I failed my lung capacity test, do 4 EP. He refers me to Dr. Matt. Dr. Gilligan, this is where he dropped the ball. And the only time. He refers me to Dr. Matt for treatment only. And the agreement was, and wait, I have it in writing. Put it in an email, told him in person, put it in an email, and he wrote back, 100%, I agree with you. This is the plan.
Yeah.
Okay, you are in charge. I'm doing everything you say. Dr. Matt is not my oncologist. I met her on Friday evening. She's giving me chemo on Monday. Dr. Matt is not my oncologist. You are. Everything you say, she's putting in the prescription, but it's all you.
Yeah.
I get to her on Friday. No, not the case. I'm in charge. You're my patient. I said, I'm not your patient. Dr. Gilligan said, I'm not your patient. Dr. Gilligan said he didn't want me to drive an hour and a half in each direction after BEP. She's like, no, not the way it works. I'm your oncologist. And then we're doing exactly what I say. And I'm like, she's like, and you're scheduled for 3 BEP on Monday. And I'm like, I failed my lung capacity exam on Wednesday. Dr. Einhorn, Dr. Gilligan both think, and I emailed Dr. Einhorn.
Good.
So, and they're like, they want EP, 4 EP, which sucks. I didn't want to do 4 EP because it extends by a month your cancer treatment, 4 rounds instead of 3.
Oh.
And she's like, nope, I'm in charge. I'm just going to do it. I don't think you really failed your lung exam. I think you didn't understand the directions. She's gambling with my lungs here, which is my life. And on Saturday, when the sun goes down, I'm like emailing. I'm like, I know you can't respond to me. You need to call me. On Friday, at 6, I'm calling or whatever. So Dr. Gilligan calls me, 7:45, whenever the sun went down on Saturday. We talked for an hour on the phone. And he's like, this is what we're going to do. This is the treatment. Dr. Matt needs to be listening to me. You're my patient. We go through the whole thing. And I tell him, like, if this doesn't work and I'm on my deathbed and you were my oncologist, I won't have regret. If I listen to Dr. Matt and I die, I will have regret. So you're in charge. He's like, I felt honestly, and this is how I felt, is that I knew him for so long, and he had like quasi friendship with my wife, and things kept going wrong. Everything went wrong. And he said to me once, you are a perfect case study in what can go wrong in somebody. And it happens every time with you. And I could tell that was like when he was at his wit's end. Not what you want to hear. So I felt like he was trying to distance the treatment in case I die in treatment. And that was my opinion. So that's why I reconfirmed with him that it's on you no matter what.
Right.
You and I are in this together.
I said, and just so you know, like at my last meeting, I was like, I'm never firing you. When I'm out of protocol, I will still come to you once a year. And he said, okay. Yeah. I said that on like March 1st.
You built a relationship with them. It's a relationship. Trust and
it doesn't take anything to check my blood work. Right. Which again, really is just checking to see if it morphed, which is a strong possibility if it comes back at year 20.
Right.
But, so get in Monday, go to there and they're like, Daniel Derrig, birthday this, 3 BEP. No. Daniel Derrig, February 27th, 1985, 4 EP. No, Mr. Derrig, that's not what we have here. And I have Cindy, Dr. Kelker. Cindy is calling them too, just trying to put it on pause, something to like, she's like, he's my primary care. She's primary care. I'm not really her patient, but she retired. I was her patient. She retired, unretired. Since then, I hooked up with Dr. Higley, who's also been great for primary care. But okay, so she's trying to prevent them to stop me. And Dr. Matt, for one, she calls on the phone, tells that nurse he's got an option. But meanwhile, I'm already taking the liquids through my port, so I'm hooked up to the port. So I'm arguing for about 3 hours. About 11 o'clock, I got there about 7:30, and I started the water at about 8:05. And the pre-meds, they give you pre-medication before you start chemo. Simple things like Pepsid, and more complex things to prevent you from throwing. I wish I'd have brought, I have some like medicine bottles that I kept. Stuff prevent you from throwing up, stuff, just random medicines that are really not good for you, but they'll give you through the port and they'll give you orally. You take 3 hours of medication before you even start.
Wow.
Okay. You think like you go and you get chemo. That's why I was like pissed at these people that are in and out. Their chemo so weak, they're not even doing pre-meds. They can just handle it. So I'm doing hours of pre-meds to keep me alive.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm arguing with the nurse and she's like, just so you know, Daniel, I'm a nurse. And I'm like, I get it. Dr. Matt blows through the door and is fucking pointing at me like this. And you have an option. You could do this or you can go home. I'm a chemo patient hooked up, getting pre-meds, cancer patient with stage 3. And Dr. Matt is like bullying me around and shit. She's not listening to Dr. Gilligan. Dr. Gilligan calls my cell phone. What happened was he got punked down by a chick.
Yeah.
You know, that's at the end of the day, dude. You know, probably when he was in middle school, he got punked down by girls too, and he's getting punked down now. She was just like a bulldog. And even though he is the expert, and I said to Dr. Matt, you're not the expert. Dr. Gilligan's the expert. She's like, you're my patient. If Dr. Gilligan wanted to treat you, I mean, she's like pointing at me. She's like, you would be in Cleveland right now.
This is the first time you met her, right?
Second time,
but I mean, like
on Friday night.
She's claiming you as her patient, like she's been treating you all this time.
I've known Dr. Gilligan since 2017.
So
it's 2022.
The thing that blows my mind is that your primary care expert, who's been treating you for 6 years or whatever at this point, is telling you this is what I believe. And it's crazy to me that you as the patient don't have any say. And like, he's my doctor.
He told me go home.
I want his treatment. I just need you to administer it, and you won't do it.
She told me go home.
Blows my mind.
So I did it. And we made an agreement. The 3 of us, Dr. Gilligan, Dr. Matt Amaral, and me, made an agreement that I would do 1 week's worth of BEP and go in on Monday and get my lungs checked. And if I had any damage compared to the week before,
I knew that.
we would stop and do 4 EP. And that's what we did. And I had no damage. So then I did the full cycle of BEP, and we didn't retest it after that, which I kind of disagreed with. Then I got the strep throat so the last day of cycle 1, I went in for chemo, and they take your blood work and they test you. Are you healthy enough for chemo today? It's a big thing. They test your bone marrow and stuff like that. And I was not healthy enough for chemo. They said, if we give you chemo today, this is Tuesday, you will be dead or in the hospital on Thursday.
Wow.
Jeez.
So my bone marrow reacted. Like Dr. Gilligan was shocked at how poorly my body handled chemo. I had to get these things called Neulasta, these shots that are just 10 of them, horrific, or else I couldn't continue chemo. And I was pissed because Dr. Gilligan said we might do it. Dr. Matt was never prescribing it. And so when if I would have done chemo that day, I may have died, because when I got my strep throat, which happened to be Thursday, if I would have been even sicker, which means even less defense of fighting disease, infections, I may have died. So it's kind of a blessing, but I was really sad I didn't get to do chemo that day, because every day you miss is a big deal. And there's actually no research on missed days, because it's unethical to research. Like, we're going to give Chris 20 infusions and you 12.
It's not normal. Yeah. Like,
So, but they did say like, it's a big deal. Okay. So I was like really sad that I missed, probably one of the saddest I've ever been. Thursday was a horrific day. I'm arguing with Dr. Matt on Thursday, her and her secretary all day. I fucking can't swallow. I have strep throat. I know what strep throat feels like. I have strep throat, but times 1,000. She's like, sounds like you might have mouth sores from chemo, which is a thing. We'll prescribe you this mouthwash that's like a pain medication. And I'm like, I want to be like, I'm just like, telling Coda, she's holding the phone. I was like, I don't have fucking that. I have fucking strep throat. I'm like screaming, as much as I can, which is way more quiet than that.
Because you've had strep throat before. You know what it feels like.
So when I broke that fever, and I mean, I honestly, and I was like texting my brother, I was like, dude, you got to come help me. I really just wanted somebody, I guess, you know, when you're about to die, you want your mom there, right? You're gonna like curl in a ball. So I was like really just wanting somebody to like be there with me. My brother didn't answer. That's a different story. But you know, Coda was mad at me because I was snapping at her. Because she was the go-between with Dr. Matt. Dr. Matt's telling her, no, we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna do that. Don't come to the ER. Meanwhile, I have 102 fever. And Dr. Gilligan's like, I really question like her ability as an oncologist. If your fever was 102 and you had these symptoms and you really, he's like, you could have died, and never make me a promise you'll never do that again. Okay. So he calls me Friday after I have strep throat. He's checking in. I'm like, what do I do, man? What do I do? And this is Friday, and I'm going to chemo on Monday. I'm like, I don't trust her. I don't want to go. And I know that you've been pushing me away from. I kind of like hinted that like you're afraid I'm gonna die on your watch, and you sent me to Akron. You said the reason is you think an hour and a half drive both directions is gonna be hard on me, and it is, but I don't trust her, and I've lost what little faith I had. And she was mean to me yesterday when I was like had strep throat. She did not believe that I was telling her like, no, sounds like you have mouth sores. That's very common, by the way. Yeah, bitch. I know that. I'm not stupid.
And they feel like two entirely different things.
Oh, so dude, I was insulted in my intelligence that she thought I could confuse strep throat and a mouth sores. Which I did get mouth sores, by the way, but it was bad, but not that. Dude, not even that bad. So Dr. Gilligan's like, well, because Dr. Matt's not promising me she'll do chemo on Monday. She told me, if you come back Monday and it's not any better, I'm not treating you. So Dr. Gilligan's like, you are in BEP. Why does she think your blood work is going to be good? You should not even be doing blood work. What did she think was going to happen? Because you have to like have this like ratio of 1.0. It's called absolute neutrophil or something. ABS or something. I don't know. We could look this stuff. It's all on my phone. Still, and whatever, I was 0.11. Yeah. So it was below 1.10, right? He was like, she's a dumbass. She's a dumbass, like not in those words. So
I was hoping. Yeah.
So he's like, you're doing chemo Monday, no matter what. If she won't treat you, call me, because I'm there at 7:30. If she won't treat you, call me. I will find you someplace to do it today. I don't care where it's at. You need next week treatment, no matter what. Yeah. This will dramatically affect your success to survive if you skip 2 full weeks of treatment. Yeah. Okay. So she did treat me. But we agreed on that he was going to move all of my appointments to Cleveland, and then I went to Cleveland Clinic. Nice. Akron. So I fired Dr. Matt without telling her. And it sucks. Dr. Matt and my wife had a professional relationship where they shared patients. Oh, wow. So my wife was, I just said nothing to Dr. Matt about this. And probably this affected my wife's working relationship with her some, but I had to survive, and I didn't really
owe her anything. She wasn't listening to you.
She wasn't listening.
This is your life.
Hey, I think she was lying about how many patients she had treated. Again, I'm going to tell you, and no offense to breast cancer patients here, but like, that's like so common. Yeah. And most of these oncologists treat breast cancer patients, and they all know it. Breast cancer, lung cancer, and anything outside of that, these people living in Podunk, Akron, Ohio, and Greene, Ohio, which I also saw another lady in Greene, her name escapes me. I mean, legit, they're looking up on WebMD and using the Venn diagram. Yeah. So
you have to be able to advocate for yourself. It's one thing that Ashley found out very well. Like she fired her first person, and she moved.
Dr. Matt.
She fired her. She was with a different hospital first. Yeah. And then she fired them, and she moved to Akron General Cleveland Clinic, whatever. And Dr. Matt was her new person. And she advocated for herself in this spec. Like she researched a ton. She didn't just fucking follow MMD. Like she was like, this is what I need. This is what I don't need. This is what I want to do. And like, she had to take that into her. From her diagnosis to like actually getting any treatment was over 3 months.
So, and I think the reason for that was the staging and progression of, I like, So my progression of cancer was, so I was treated immediately because the chance of success goes down like daily. And I think that when they found hers, they thought like it's the type of thing that treatment today or in 6 months won't affect lifespan. And so oncologists and their scheduling and their secretaries are like building that in,
Well,
which is a little unfair.
Some of it was probably that, but the reason it took so long is because when she was with her first care team, they weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
They were giving her the runaround. They weren't scheduling tests. They
I
they
don't
weren't
think they
taking
took
it
her
serious.
very serious.
And then when
That's my
she
opinion.
left and went, then shit actually started to fucking happen.
So, like,
but
and
she
the
had to
thing
like
is-
do that on her own.
And Dr. Matt probably can treat breast cancer patients. I bet not 8 out of 10 of her patients are breast cancer patients.
Well, like the personality traits you are describing, though, Ashley very much described as well. Like she was a bully. Like she was very
she was a bully.
opinionated.
Holy Dr. Galligan, dude. I wanted to punch her for that.
She was very opinionated. There was no like bedside manners. Like this is
Yeah.
how it is. Like there was no like love lost when that ended. You know, like
Oh, I wanted to like her. And it was
Yeah.
funny because like her secretary, no, again, I call
yeah,
it, it's her second-hand person, which is actually a nurse practitioner, probably
Yeah.
making 180 grand or something.
right.
Yeah, I call her secretary, but it's like it kind of has a secretarial role
Yeah.
in the sense of like controls her scheduling and stuff
Clerical.
and message clerical, even though she's like a practitioner.
Mhm.
And I'm sure it pays well. She's in charge of like education and stuff. And I hate to mitigate that. I know I'm using the wrong word. She's highly educated, smart lady. She's like, most of Dr. Matt's patients get along with her. So I'm a little like confused at what's going here.
We've got 2 in the room. In the
I know. And I said, well, most of Dr. Matt's patients aren't being treated. I was like, I bet most of
Yeah.
her patients are breast cancer. And she like didn't respond.
Yeah.
I was like, she's in over her head.
Yeah.
And she's disagreeing with Dr. Einhorn. I was like, this is one of the things I said. I was like, do you guys know who Dr. Einhorn is? And she was like, I'm sorry, Mr. Derrig. I only know Dr. Matt. And I said, I
That's the
rest
problem.
my case.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I rest my case.
Yeah.
Every person in the TC community knows Dr. Einhorn.
Yeah.
If you are
Or
being
should.
treated for TC
Mm-hmm.
and you yourself don't know Dr. Einhorn, you have not done your research.
Yeah.
And if your treating physician does not know Dr. Einhorn or reach out to Dr. Einhorn, you are probably in the wrong place
Not an
and
expert.
doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
Listen, people come from the world. If you have money and you're living in Saudi Arabia, and this is no joke, you pay out of pocket and you get treatment at IU
Mhm.
with Dr. Einhorn. And that's a fact. That is an absolute fact. Dr. Einhorn's patients are the world. He does not just treat Indiana.
That speaks volumes.
And a lot of my friends, when I drove 5 hours, have driven from New Mexico and stayed there for 4 months. Lance Armstrong stayed at IU for 4 months
Mhm.
for his surgery and treatment
Yeah.
from Texas.
Yeah.
People with money go there.
There's a
It's-
lot about him and respect, like do yourself a favor and fucking be involved.
I know
you
it's ridiculous. I just don't know what people
Yeah.
are doing. They're not researching it themselves.
Which is just sad because you would hope, you do hope. I mean, if you want to have any sense of hope in your fucking life and your medical conditions, like you have hope that these doctors are wanting to do the right thing and be there to care for you. And it's like they're doing themselves a disservice when there's this ability to research or study someone with that kind of level to not do it. Like that seems crazy to me.
I think the type of personality that wants to go and save lives in some ways wants to be, they don't want to have to call on anybody.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, a patient, not all patients have the intellectual ability
Yeah.
to go through these, to go find research and go find a community that can help them. Like I can tell you, when you join our community, the first thing we say is go see Dr. Einhorn.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I'll tell you who says it. There's a lot of moms
Yeah.
because they're kids that got it at like 19 and they're super involved, or they're even when they're 30, like I was. A lot of, if they're not married, they're moms, they're a woman, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the moms are like, Ryan Einhorn, Dr. Einhorn, immediately.
Mhm.
And like these guys look like, hey, I just got diagnosed last week, and it's like 19 posts. Here's Dr. Einhorn's phone number. Here's Dr. Einhorn's email. And we're all like saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, dude, relax. It's stage 1. I really don't need to go there yet. And that's partly true, but it's more like let's just know this is a possibility. Tell your doctor to be reaching out to them.
Yeah.
If your doctor's refusing, try and find a doctor to reach out. And if it's stage 1, it might not need him, but when
Yeah.
it starts to get complicated, if he's already seen your patient file, like I paid $175 just for him to review the pictures and stuff, like there's some connection to go back on 7 years later.
Right.
Yeah.
I think is worth it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's not something to be prideful with when it's someone's life. Like you put fucking all pride aside, and
dude,
that's how it should be. I know it's not, but I mean, it's just sad.
I
Like
think-
that's how it should be.
dude, Dr. Matt just bulldozing me.
I think you're right
in
though.
chemo.
It's a matter of being like outshined is how she takes it anyway. You know that, and I feel like Ryan said,
You are my patient. That's
Right.
exactly what she did.
right.
I have a chemo thing in me while she's yelling at me. You are my patient.
It's so sad.
And I'm just like stunned in a way. Like, and also I'm like very tired. And
Right. It's like, what
because
are you
the
gonna
night
fucking
before I
do?
started chemo, I was like up to like 5 a.m. and like got up at 6 a.m. I was like so nervous.
Oh hell yeah.
And I kept like, I was like talking, I was like, oh my God, I can feel my ports out of place. They're not going to treat me. And
You work
just-
yourself up.
I went to judo on Friday night, which I shouldn't have done. And I got choked by a gi and it like literally moved the like line
Yeah.
just a little. But it worked. It was fine. But
This is why your other doctor was saying everything bad that happens to you.
Yeah, well,
you're out here fucking doing judo with the
So-
fucking chemo thing in you.
I know I shouldn't have done that. And it hurt like hell if they ever hit it. So because it stays in after you're done with
Jeez.
chemo for some time, and then they
Yeah.
take it out. And so like when I was done and approved in October, I saw Dr. Klein and I was like, just so you know, I started about May 10th and started doing judo again. And he has like a resident with him. He's like, this is the problem with treating young men. They will not do what you tell them to do.
Yeah, it's hard.
He's
And I'm
wrong.
like, right.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna eat that. And he's like, well, you lived. And I'm like, yeah, I lived, dude. That's what I thought.
Jeez.
But
So you got back. So you went back to chemo. She treated you. Like, what was the progression after that? Like, you weren't sure if she was going to. You go that Monday. She ends up treating you.
nervous as hell.
Yeah. So what ends up? Oh, how long in, or how much longer do you have after that?
So
after
I went with her for the rest of that week.
Yeah.
But that was cycle 2. And then mid cycle 2, I started going to Cleveland.
Oh, that's right. You transferred.
I
Okay.
transferred to Cleveland and I was treated for the rest of my treatment there. Okay, big thing. Oh God, I'm so glad I didn't forget this. So in between all of this, I connect with MD Anderson, an oncologist, MD Anderson, who's also an expert. Kind of getting another opinion because I was afraid Dr. Gilligan was gonna like
Cut ties.
yeah, because I really do feel like he thought like this dude might die.
Wasn't going well. Yeah.
And it's not going well. And I kind of like want to separate.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's a real thing.
He didn't want to be listed
the
as your, like,
last
primary,
person,
and then
and
you
then you
die
die.
under.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a real thing in the medical field. My wife has had patients die and they like do a whole thing about it.
Yeah.
And that sucks because I think in an administrative sense that forces clinicians to be hands off when maybe they should be hands on.
Sure. Yeah.
So I reached out I have a friend named Alex Sue, who had stage 3, horrible, has a son, married. He was so torn up. One thing is when you're sick, you like, F this, so after he was done treatment, he didn't work for a year. He quit his job. He was a manager at an engineering firm, 350 people under him, takes a year off his career. Obviously that affects, probably makes a lot less money.
Yeah.
But I saw his oncologist virtually at MD Anderson. Nice guy, that much older than us. I don't know what he was, 42 or something like that,
Yeah.
So Alex had this great Alex is our age, maybe a year younger than me or something. Alex has this, and Alex is also, went to MIT and doesn't lead on to that and all, but
Yeah.
very humble, just tells you he went to school in Boston.
Oh, you're saying influenced by that mentality.
Well, no, just a super intelligent guy.
yeah.
If you went to MIT and studied engineering, I
Right.
trust what you're going to tell me.
Yeah.
And in all facets, you know why? Because you have the intellectual ability to understand things. And even if it's not what you studied, I trust that you're smart enough to go do your own homework for your life.
Yeah.
So when you picked this guy, I trust that,
Yeah.
and Cindy, Dr. Coker, Adam DeFord's mom, went to MIT.
Yeah.
So I trust that. I trust Alex Sue, who I haven't talked to in, I don't know, 8 months or something. He probably, he might be forgetting who I am, but he really reached out to me at my low point. Coda found him, and then he reached out to me and was like, yeah, I did the RPL&D. I did all this too. You know, you're going to be good, dude. You know, he's a tough guy too. And Alex connects me to his oncologist, and I really peppered his oncologist with like questions. And he gives me these, like, he has like a PowerPoint. And so, you know, one thing is, and Dr. Higley said this, and he's like, yeah, you get, you know, if I were worried about your cancer, like if it was a low survival rate, I'd tell you to go to Cleveland Clinic, Cleveland. I was like, don't worry, I already have Dr. Gilligan.
Yeah.
And she didn't even know that it was. He's like, but you got an easy cancer to treat. Not true.
Wow.
Not true.
Jeez.
What a smack, too.
And I already forget this guy's name, so I apologize. But I could look it up and maybe, you know, send it to you or something in a message, and you could post if anybody is interested. This guy at MD Anderson, I have this virtual appointment with. Meanwhile, I'm in chemo, by the way.
Yeah.
This was around the Dr. Matt time. He's like, no, not true. And he had all of the stats. If you were treated in random America, your chance of stage 3 of survival was like 60%.
Mm-hmm.
If you're treated at MD Anderson or Cleveland Clinic main campus, which there's a vast difference.
Yeah.
Oh, it says Cleveland Clinic on that. It's not Cleveland Clinic. And I need people to understand that they've been duped.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the guy at Cleveland Clinic is doing research half the time. Okay.
People at Akron General worked at Akron General prior, and they just put a sign on the building.
Yeah. My wife.
No different.
My wife is one of those people.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
And
not-
like, I'm not disparaging her.
No, but it's true. It's not.
And she acknowledges that.
Yeah. They didn't change staff.
There's
They
only
just
one
put a
Cleveland
fucking new
Clinic.
sign up there.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So he was like, I don't know what it was. It may have been 50 or 40%. It was really low.
Yeah.
And if you got treated at MD Anderson or Cleveland Clinic or UCLA or IU, it was like 86% or something. It was like double. And the same staging, the exact same stage I am for the exact same cancer I have.
Wow.
And he was like, you need treated by an expert. And I'll tell you what, these other places that get maybe one or less patient a year screw up the chemo.
Yeah.
He's like, and it's not the doctor necessarily. It's the pharmacist. You know, there's a chemo every day. And I did not know this. You go in, they check your blood. They do your weight. They send that stat info, those stats, to the pharmacist.
Mm-hmm.
The pharmacist builds your chemo regimen that day up to date towards your blood work, towards your weight,
Mm-hmm.
what per square inch your body can handle or should be taking in, plus what your body can handle with your current blood work. Okay. If you go to MD Anderson, our pharmacy team has seen your cancer 350 times this year.
Yeah.
If you go to Cancer Center Mercy in Canton, Ohio, they've seen it once every 3 years. They are building your chemo wrong, and you have a significantly lower chance of success.
Yeah.
And like, it was like, so the overall number for testicular cancer at stage 3 was 70. And he was like, it's like 85 and 40.
Mm-hmm.
And it's meets in the middle at 70.
Right.
And that scared the shit out of me because I know I'm being treated at Akron General right now.
Yeah.
So that was another reason why I went to Cleveland Clinic because, you know, Cleveland Clinic, all right, and I'll get into this at the end, but Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Gillian, he specializes. He gets patients from all over who come see him. So they do see this cancer a lot.
Yeah.
So like I asked when I'm on the chemo floor, anybody have testicular cancer in here besides me today? Oh yeah, somebody down there, and somebody down there. Thank God.
Yeah.
So I know we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
But if
Cleveland's
I'm
got a
in
good
there,
cancer center.
I'm not in the same boat.
Yeah.
Okay. So and then I start talking to Dr. Gilligan about this, and he was like, you know, and he knows this guy, and this guy knows Dr. Gilligan.
Mhm.
And he's like, I think his name's like Matt Campbell or something. Dr. Campbell, at MD Anderson. We can check that later. But he's like, you know, I know that. I'm familiar. And I'm like, you fucking know that. Why did you tell me to go to Akron?
Mhm.
Again, like that's where I do feel like he dropped the ball. But he was like, well, I think it has more to do not just the pharmacy guy, that was the hypothesis of the guy at MD Anderson.
Yeah.
His hypothesis was the type of person who's going to do a lot of research and find me and be
Mhm.
willing to drive an hour, 3-4 hours a day or move to Cleveland
Yeah.
has a lot better chance of success and financial stability and wealth to do this, which all play into survival rates, than the type of person who's like, well, I live in Ravenna, Ohio. I may as well just get this cancer treatment. I don't even know what type I have. I've met people that didn't know they had seminoma or non-seminoma, didn't know what stage they are. They're like knuckle dragging mouth breathers who have cancer too. And they are not doing their own research, and they're just taking whatever treatment they get.
Yeah.
And he was like,
they're trusting their doctors, and that's all. That's enough for them.
And that type of person may also still listen, dude. This dumb bitch on my group yesterday is like, she thinks one cycle is 1 day of treatment. She's talking about her boyfriend. You know, she's like, he's like, went through his first cycle today. No, he went through his first infusion today.
Yeah.
Okay. She was like, well, he's said he's only gonna have one more beer tonight, and he's calling it a day. You are not supposed to drink. You're not supposed to smoke. You're not supposed to drink. Okay. So it's like he was saying, like, these people, they're smoking, they're drinking. A lot of them are still doing marijuana if they're addicted.
Uneducated.
Yeah. He's like, and that conflicts with the medication, and that is why they have a lower success rate. Although I do think maybe where you're treated plays a little into it too.
Sure.
But I think it has to do with the intellectual capacity and the financial stability of the type of person who travels for treatment and seeks me out or seeks out Einhorn versus the type of person who's like, I live in Randolph, Ohio, and I'm just going to my closest doctor. Or even worse, places than that.
Yeah. You're not treating a fucking flu or strep.
Yeah, exactly. You got to go to the best.
When cancer's brought into the situation, at that point, you should be seeking out what is the best situation for me.
It's your
not
life.
what's the most convenient situation.
Yeah, I know. You gotta blow convenience. In fact, like, so I first thought when I first got, I might move to Indiana for 4 months, like Lance Armstrong did, which I ended up never doing. And at MD Anderson, by the way, my cancer, they treated inpatient, which means I would have stayed there for 3 months.
Yeah.
And Ohio, our insurance does not cover the inpatient, so I was sent home every day. And so Dr. Gilligan would like to change that. We had conversations about that. He would long term, and I've talked to Dr. Gilligan about this. He would like, and they're trying to do this, and I think it's gonna happen. Last time I talked to him, is make like Cleveland Clinic main campus, Taussig, have its like own floor of testicular cancer. And it'd be like people from all over the world, kind of like Einhorn now. And he'd be like the new Einhorn, and everybody can go over there for treatment. And like maybe even have their own center, like not have one floor, but have their own building. And we
sounds like
talked
they
about
need
that.
it. You've exposed a lot of holes about that.
And yeah, exactly. And like have a so like, in other words, like MD Anderson and IU, they get these like financial waivers where people who live in New Mexico get to like live basically on campus for 4 months. And he's like, we're applying for those things where we're just going to be treating. And so like one thing Coda and I have talked about, since we know this stuff about the traveling, and like there's $1 million an hour going to cancer research, right? Like maybe we could have a nonprofit one day
goes towards actual care,
like a 5K that goes towards traveling towards Cleveland Clinic. And all it does is pay for gas, pay for hotels, and I feel like I should give back. And it's not necessarily cancer research, which I mean that needs research too, but it goes towards
subset.
If Ryan lives in Akron, who's paying for his gas? What if he's not married and he can't get a ride to Cleveland? What is he doing? Paying a taxi? Well, he hasn't worked in 3 months.
Great idea.
Okay. Somebody is going to pick him up for free and take him to Cleveland Clinic, and somebody's going to take him home, and it's going to be covered. And that would be my long-term goal.
That's a great idea.
To have a nonprofit that just does that. I think if we all deal in the small, we can accomplish the big. In judo, they say, make yourself more perfect every day, 1% better. And by making yourself more perfect, you affect the people around you. If I can do this, big thing would be cure cancer.
Right.
I don't know. Well, a small thing would be get a ride for Ryan to Cleveland.
Give people the access.
There's different triumphs, and they all add up.
I can accomplish that.
That's
someday.
like, David Kennedy.
Yeah, I know. And he had leukemia or something.
Yeah,
right?
so he had it real bad. And like I was talking about earlier, was support and raising money. Like that family is a family that we helped raise a lot of money for, to afford them the ability to stay on the offsite housing there, because they couldn't pay a mortgage and stay. So we raised money to pay for him.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
Then to drive, like why isn't some of that money going towards that? Like you said,
Yeah.
there's tons of research being done to hopefully at someday cure cancer, regardless of the fundraising. But how do we make the life easier for the people going through it on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah.
That's huge.
And I think David has no evidence of disease last time
He's been
heard.
doing good. Yeah.
I mean, I think he got diagnosed like 1 or 2 years after me.
Yeah.
And then he did so leukemia is a marathon and testicular cancer is a sprint. What do I mean by that?
Yeah.
Leukemia will do like 24 infusions over a year. Testicular cancer will do like 24 infusions over 9 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it is leukemia will be like a couple hours, and testicular cancer is all like 8 hours. Like, there were days I got there at 7:30 and didn't leave till 6 p.m. I was always opening and closing the cancer center.
It's wild.
And so like somebody said to me, like, because when you have leukemia, a lot of times you still get to do things and think, and somebody said, like, what would you rather have? And I said, oh, it's so like testicular cancer destroys you, but for a short while. I don't want to mitigate, and I'm sure there's worse, but like, dude, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has a type of leukemia where he just takes a pill and he's fine the rest of his life. And I said, I would rather have testicular cancer, even though like it's worse in treatment, right? I guess that's subjective, but the reason is I know in 4 months or 5 months whether this worked or not.
Right.
Leukemia patients don't know as quickly.
Yeah.
Because it's a longer. It's not as brutal.
Yeah. And
I'm confident in saying I would say that too. And hey, let's measure whose, thing is bigger. But it is not as brutal.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless like frontline chemo and stuff have failed, and then maybe you're doing high dose and stuff, which I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about frontline to frontline. But I'd still rather have mine because I got to know by April 15th.
Yeah.
And I started January like 15th, whether it worked or not. Where like those guys don't know for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want that weighing on my head for a year.
Hell no.
Yeah.
So, see if there's anything on here.
Yeah, I was gonna say question.
I still had two more too. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You guys can ask me anything, dude. You guys know you might know, Chris. You don't. I could talk forever.
Yeah.
I literally have a job where I'm paid to talk.
A lot of my questions were you answered them already, so like they're easily. I leave it to you on that. But one thing that I was curious is there anything positive that you take away from this whole outlook?
Yeah, the outlook on life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm like, life's short, do shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I really feel like I've put a lot of things off in life, and like I kind of stopped doing that. We could all die tomorrow.
Yeah.
I hit by a car. I really feel like the outlook has changed about like things I want to accomplish in the time frame of that.
Yeah.
Although I still plan, and I have never stopped planning my life to be old. I acknowledge it might not be a possibility. Including up to another relapse and I die in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actual reality for me, and I accept. I don't, I watch The Office, and they're like, he's like, oh, if you had a heart attack, and he's like, I accept the logic of that.
Yeah.
I accept the logic of that. It's not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when Stanley had his heart attack,
Yeah.
Michael says, you were okay with it? And like, no, I accept the logic. Like,
Yeah.
I accept the logic. I could get a relapse again, a fourth recurrence, which would be catastrophic. The treatment would be poor. They would give me enough chemo on an individual day to kill me. They would be keeping me alive artificially, not using my kidneys. It'd be like, it's horrific. It's called high dose with stem cell transplant. You would need a stem cell transplant. And guess what? I've met people who died or were terminal simply because they couldn't generate enough stem cell pre-chemo to bank to replace their own stem cell later.
Yeah.
And they become terminal. Oh, I've met people. Again, I reacted very poorly to chemo. I think I'm a tough guy, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I reacted very poorly to chemo. Like I said, I had a blood clot right here. If that blood clot would have moved to my brain, I would have had a stroke and died. So like my heart rate was 185. That's how I caught it. I wore a Fitbit.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
jeez.
I go in on Tuesday and I'm like, I'm not doing chemo today until Dr. Gilligan explains why my heart rate is 185.
Yeah.
And then like he runs in, he's like, I guarantee you have a heart, a tumor. a blood clot. And I was like, I bet it's in your lungs. And you might have more.
Mhm.
So we're not doing anything. We're going to treat you for that. And they immediately did. And then guess what? I still did chemo that day. And guess what? On Monday, I was too sick for cancer treatment. So what did they do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday? They treated me with 125% of chemotherapy 4 days in a row to equal the 500%.
Yeah.
And so even though, and I could not miss, it's life or death. I could not miss. I had a
Mhm.
blood clot in my lung. They still had to treat me with 125%
Yeah.
chemotherapy. And I was hospitalized the rest of that week on that 125%.
Yeah, no
That was
shit.
at my lowest. That was my
Yeah.
lowest, like
Wow.
overall, like mentally, except for the moment I woke up and I was in so much pain, I asked to die.
Mhm.
But like, I was like, I gave up. But that was when I looked at the results of the Sambo tournament
Yeah.
at the Arnold. And I was like, please, God, if you allow me to leave,
Yeah.
I'm going to do next year's Sambo tournament. And I did. I like set a goal.
That's
I fucking
awesome.
did it.
Yeah.
And I won my weight and age and everything. You know, I won the 35 and up, 88 kilogram bracket. So I was very happy about that. And you know, so I don't even remember exactly what that question was, but
It was just basically like, what would you take away positive from it?
oh yeah,
And
dude,
then there's
set goals to do shit. 'Cause
okay.
you could die tomorrow. Chris set a goal and do it, dude. Ryan set a goal and do it. 'Cause
Yeah.
like you could just die tomorrow, dude.
Would you also have similar advice for somebody taking on cancer for the first time? Not necessarily testicular, any kind of cancer.
I would say plan for your life still. Don't start thinking you're gonna die. Okay. I've never really, I mean, I've been like, oh shit, I could die. But no, I'm funding my 401k, dude.
Yeah.
If I really
Still
thought I was
living
gonna,
your life.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like if I thought I was gonna die, would I be putting money in my kid's college plan?
Yeah.
I mean,
Good
you know
point.
what I mean?
That's a
Like,
good point.
or would I be blowing it?
Yeah.
So plan as if you're gonna live and keep going. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be hard. Set goals, individually, like through chemo. Like today, I remember I had a goal of I was gonna lift weights in chemo, but not every day. And I only did it one time.
Mm-hmm.
It was like April 1st or something. And I was like, maybe it was March 1st. I don't know. And I was like, oh, 20 minutes of weightlifting. It was nothing. And I was lifting like 10 pounds, but I was like, I did it. You know what I mean? Like set goals, even in chemo, even in treatment, even walking goals. I remember when I would have walking goals. And then set goals for shit you want to do later. Like, I'm not a big traveler, so a lot of people go, I'm going to go to Hawaii. If that's your thing, do that. My thing was like, I'm going to wrestle in tournaments.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing judo 10 years. I'm like, I don't really go to tournaments because like takes up your whole weekend. And, you know, it's my time with my wife. So I'm just like plodding along. I'm like, no, I'm going to test myself. And that was my goal. And so I did stuff like that. I got one at the end of the month. I got one in May. We got a freestyle wrestling tournament at the end of May. The Ohio State Fair freestyle tournament. So and who knows what else pops up after that. But I'll tell you what sucks is I got in between 2 and 3, you know, obviously I was getting my CFP during stage 2. So stage 3, I was doing through the Yale School of Management, a certificate program, and what do they call it? Like investment portfolio management in theory. So I did the course through the Yale School of Management. I passed. I got like a diploma from them. Kind of meaningless in my opinion. It's like an executive diploma. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to study and take the exam via SEMA as well, which is Certified Investment Management Analyst. It kind of fits adjacent to my field. Definitely would increase my pay. And I was supposed to get on at my financial planning firm field, at my firm, the investment decision-making team, not actually a portfolio trigger-making man, but like, hey, we got these 9 funds. We're going to like decide what should be eligible to go into client portfolios. And I was going to be on that team. Well, I still have not taken that exam. And my time is where I spent like $6,000 to $8,000 on that. And I tell Coda, and we kind of like even up to this week was like Coda, getting cancer this last time kind of fucking changed. Yeah. I don't know that I want to study for 35 hours a week for 3 months and take another exam, even though I'm sorry, we're out like $8,000. If I pass, my work will pay me back. If I don't, then they'll never pay me back. And I said to her, I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I know like you would love to have that money, But like, I don't know that I'm like ever going to be at a place to go take it. And by the way, I'm on like a clock.
Right.
So
Yeah.
with
She
a
just wants it
SEMA
to give
board.
to her next husband anyway. So fuck that guy.
What'd you say?
She just wants that money to give it to her next husband anyway.
Yeah,
so
I know,
fuck it.
dude. I know. Well, what it
Fuck
is
that.
she's like
Take that time for
endlessly,
yourself.
endlessly doing work to our house, which is okay. Our house needs work.
Yeah.
But that asset one day, you know, you build that asset and it's going to increase in value, but not if
Yeah.
her next husband lives there.
Right.
So
You got to think though, like, I mean, just listening to your story, like, I think you earned that one because I mean, you're a very well or a great example of someone who did continue. You were fucking going through stage two cancer, and you're still fucking going to school. You
went
were
to class
living
every
your
day and
life, you
took the
know. Like,
CFP, and so that was when I passed the
Yeah.
CFP exam. My wife was like, "You finally get a time to grieve,"
right?
because that was 15 months in between.
Yeah,
And basically I studied every single day between
yeah,
getting out of the hospital
Hmm.
and taking that exam. That was like a weight lifted off my shoulder because I knew I would go from being like a asset gatherer kind of sales guy
Yeah.
to there's very rare, not very many CFP professionals, practitioners in the area.
yeah.
I knew I could get into a financial planning firm versus an asset gathering firm.
Right.
And I felt like, I just felt like it was like probably the happiest I've ever been, like in a
Yeah.
way happier than when my kids were born.
Yeah.
Uh,
But you earned that one. I mean,
Yeah.
especially to do it under the situation you were in.
yeah.
So, you know, you paid the money, but if it's not right for you,
I mean, I would love to be a SEMA,
sure.
but
Dude,
dude, I just don't know that I would really like, I
Yeah.
train, I lift and train
yeah.
judo, wrestling, and I do kickboxing too, but I never like bring that up because I don't think I'm very good.
Mm.
So I don't call myself like a kickboxer or anything. I do go to it like 2 days a week, but I
Yeah.
just don't feel like I'm that good. I've never done a competition. So I would have to quit that for 3 months
Yeah.
or 4 months. And like, I don't want to.
Nothing. It's not.
It-
Something that was previously important to you doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be
It's
important
not
to
as
you
important.
now.
No,
And there's
it's not
nothing wrong
hard.
with that. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like because if you're gonna do it, you're gonna want to be all in. It's the type of person that you are, and if you're not
Yeah.
there for it, then
Dude, and I'd like to say all in, dude, like
yeah,
you have I would study from 6 to 2 a.m., 6
No.
p.m. to 2 a.m. for months.
Yeah.
I studied like 6 months for the CFP exam, which is probably overkill.
yeah,
But I can tell you when I took that exam, which is a 7-hour exam, I was like done in 3 hours.
Mhm.
yeah.
And I was the first person done. And I thought it was like, I was like, oh my God, I'm nailing this. So there's two things when you're doing it. I've done 2 7-hour exams like that in my career.
Wow.
If you're done in like 3 hours, there's 2 things happened. Luckily, both times, the best one. Either you're so stupid on the subject matter
Yeah.
that you don't know how poorly you're doing,
yeah,
or you know it so well that it seems easy. And both times, luckily,
yeah.
I knew it so well it seemed easy. But I was extremely afraid.
Yeah.
Like I'm blowing through these questions. Like there's a chance that I am so far intellectually removed from able to answer these questions
Yeah.
on the philosophical and intellectual level that I'll never know it. Because here's the thing: when you study like that for like 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and you still can't like grasp it, and this is just a case. There's a limit to what my brain can comprehend. Like I can't be a rocket scientist, right? So so like there's this fear of like it's 4 inches away from my grasp.
Yeah.
Well, I can't make up that 4 inches. My arm's not going to get longer just by doing this.
Sure.
And so I was like really scared, like going through that. And I was like, dude, I didn't even fucking think I had to put my stage 2 cancer on the shelf until I was done with the CFP exam 15 months later. And I was like thinking about all that, like all of that, like thinking like, man, what if I did all of this, went to school again, got a 3rd degree, missed a ton of time with my kids, didn't grieve having cancer, and still failed.
Yeah.
But I passed.
Yeah.
And so that was like honestly, like, I mean, I was like ecstatic. It was like that. Dude, I hate to say this. I may have been happier that day than when like my son was born.
It's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think when you put off that much personal time to go through what you went through for something like that, and then to come out successful. I mean, how could you not be ecstatic? You know, like it was a
awesome.
huge accomplishment. So I wouldn't feel bad. I mean, we experience things differently.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away from the fact that like you had fucking kids and that's a very important time in your life.
Yeah,
Not like
I know. And I mean, I obviously, love my kids and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
We play and we have a good time.
Yeah, that's huge though. That's a big deal.
2 sweet kids.
Yeah.
Oh, go back to cancer. There's a genetic link. My aunt died of ovarian cancer. Testicular cancer and ovarian cancer are related.
That was one of my questions.
Genetic link. So if anybody in your family has ovarian cancer, you need to be checking yourself for testicular cancer.
Yeah.
I did not know she died when I was in high school. I did not know that she died from ovarian cancer. I knew she died from cancer. And when you don't know the types, it doesn't really matter, right? So after I get cancer, I'm like, Mom, what did Aunt Donna die from?
Mhm.
She's like, and by the way, it's more passed from women than men. So my brother has a higher chance of getting cancer than my son, even though I yielded him. But it's because it came from my mom. Well, they kept saying, well, who in your family has testicular cancer? No one. No one said to me who has ovarian cancer. Through my research and Dr. Gilligan, it's ovarian cancer. Oh, well, what did Aunt Donna die from? Ovarian cancer.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot. I could have been looking for this my whole life.
Shit.
So my aunt died from ovarian cancer when I was 16 and when I was in 10th grade.
Yep. That was one of my questions was going to be if you had any family history and if you believe if you have family history, should it make a difference in your success, your treatment path? Because like with Ashley, because of her, they don't start doing mammograms till 40. They will not do mammograms till 40.
Yeah.
And she told them, I have a history in my family, and they would not. Like her doing that surgery is the only reason that they found it. They would not have found it for another 4 years. Like she told them, like, I want mammograms. I have a history in my family. They refused to do it. That's crazy to me.
So at that point, I would have tried to find somebody who wants to do it. I know it sounds dumb.
No.
But maybe I'm not as super familiar with that, but like, so like one thing about like family history is, if you have like a dad that got colon cancer, we know you should be getting your test sooner than 40.
Yeah.
So I would assume if your mom had breast cancer or your aunt or whatever, your grandma, you should be moving that up.
Yeah.
Don't take that as dogma because I haven't done the research,
but I'm saying
I know it's true for testicular cancer in terms of like family history checking,
Yeah.
and I know it's true for colon cancer.
Yeah.
So I would assume if I was applying the same logic,
You would think.
I've talked so much. I think it's like almost 10, right?
I think it's
10, 17. Yeah. Closing question.
Yeah.
Message, advice, anything you can give to someone currently fighting a cancer battle or has survived, is, a survivor. I know some of them it's living with, it's not necessarily like there's cures and stuff, but like what sort of advice or message would you give?
So I guess I'm going to talk to the people where there's a possibility of success, because if you were diagnosed with terminal and they told you you're terminal, I have never been told that. So I don't want to be like this dickhead that's giving people advice, and I haven't been
understandable.
In that situation. But like my cousins were like super supportive. They were like sending me cards and sometimes like $20 for Panera and stuff, like stuff I didn't ask for. Like I'm eternally grateful. And I had a cousin, I know it's from Rocky, but either way, he was like, life's not about how hard. What is it, Chris?
How hard
you get hit?
How hard you get hit? How you can keep? How's it go?
Keep going after you've been hit.
Yeah, it's from Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, and so one of my cousins told me that. I would say that. That totally applies. If you get cancer, and they're not giving you 3 months to live.
Yeah.
So in other words, you're gonna have an after this.
Yeah.
At least plan like you're gonna have an after this, unless they're honest and they say like, hey, you're not. Okay.
How hard you can hit? It's how hard you can get hit and keep fighting.
Yeah. Just keep fighting, dude. Keep going. Yeah. It's gonna suck. I would tell myself this all the time. The only way, the only path to be done is through. Mm-hmm. I would say it to myself, like, I have to go through this. Mm-hmm. I have to go through this surgery. I have to go through chemo, or I will not get on the outside. Yeah. If I want to the outside, so like envision yourself being done. Yeah. Envision your next life. Vision the shit you're gonna do, and vision, like for me, I would like look at pictures of my kids.
Yeah.
I would like the only way for me to wrestle with Enzo is to get through this. The only path is through. And the only way, for me to spend time with my daughter, put her to bed is through. So I would look at pictures of my kids on my phone. Yeah. And like one of the last things I looked at before Coda went away on my surgery, so I had orchiectomy. I don't call that my surgery. My surgery was my RP on the D. I was like, show me pictures of the kids.
Yeah.
And then she walked away. So yeah, dude, keep going. Just just keep moving. Like, you
Yeah.
gotta like go through. I mean, it sounds so simple and it's stupid,
Yeah.
and it maybe comes off like a dick. Like, again, if you're given a 3-month and you don't want to be motivated, or you want to like sleep, dude, say la vie. But if you're like, hey, Chris, you got cancer, but like there's a 65% chance that you'll actually be cured, or at least 65% chance you have 5 years before maybe it comes back. Like, dude, do shit.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, just keep going, and do all of the treatment and go find an expert.
Mm.
I like it. Live your life.
Yeah.
I think you're a good example of that too. Like, you continue to do the things you wanted to do, and continue to set yourself up and your family up for success. You know, like you continue to stay motivated, and that's commendable, especially under the circumstance. You know,
Could've
so
quit, you know,
yeah,
and nobody would have been pissed at me either.
right.
Mm.
You had an out, essentially. You know, so good stuff. Chris, any final thoughts? I mean, other than the obvious. I mean, thank you so much for coming.
That's yeah.
You got through something extremely difficult that a very small percentage of people have to go through. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, and being open and honest. And as we always say with these situations, you know, I hope someone, even if it's just one listener, takes something away from this in a positive way, and it gives them some sort of hope, because that's why we have people like you on. I think it can truly make a difference in one person's life. So
To me,
really, I just appreciate you.
it's
you
the
know?
holes in the medical field that I was most, you
Yeah.
know,
It's sad.
mind blown
Dude,
from.
people are so surprised. Like,
Yeah.
dude, there are people too. Like, your doctor's gonna be like, sorry, dude, you got cancer, but my wife's hungry.
Mm.
Right.
I gotta let you go.
Yeah.
It is not like it is in the movies. There's no white gloves for this stuff.
Yeah.
They're human. They're gonna let you know that they have their flaws. And I mean, people are flabbergasted when I tell them. Like,
Yeah.
my doctor was like, listen, Dan, it's 6:30, my wife's hungry.
That's crazy.
I'm not shocked that they're dicks. I'm just more shocked at just their audaciousness for somebody who's literally on their deathbed. Like, you know, like
You're in the wrong field.
I worked at a hospital for 13 years. Doctors were constantly dicks to me.
Yeah.
But like
They're dicks to everyone.
to a guy that's like, you know, literally needs
But
help.
I'll tell you, like, I'm gonna give shout outs to like the nurses. Chemo nurses did a great job. I loved them. I
Mhm.
was always like chatting and trying to like be up with them.
Yeah.
If you're a nurse and you're getting worked, go be a chemo nurse. You might have cancer patients who die, but I feel like a lot of them are grateful that somebody's treating them.
Mhm.
And they mostly worked 8 to 5s versus a lot of these nurses are working
Yeah.
15-hour shifts and whatnot. So I had a great experience with my nurses. Again, Dr. Gilligan, I trust him with my life. I think he's a great person. And just everybody who's helped me, my wife, my cousins, my parents, Coda's mom and dad, specifically in terms of her parents, her mom did a lot.
Good stuff. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you, Danny, for coming on. And we'll get a link out and everything. We can share this and everyone can tune in and listen. So appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. That is Made to Motivate podcast. Make sure you tune into the show every week. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell on YouTube so you know when the new videos launch. And check out our pages individually if you can. We appreciate the support. At Jesse Young SI on Twitter. Chris, the Film Freak Kessinger. Check out the Film Freak Review page on Facebook. And I am Ryan Weiss. You can check out rockeverywhereinc.etsy.com to follow my art and apparel page. We appreciate the support. And of course, at Made to Motivate podcast on all social media sites. Thanks again, and we'll check you next week.